Yi Bingying tried to strike up a conversation with Fan Mingchuan several times, but Fan Mingchuan rejected her coldly. Yi Bingying hated Yun Chujio even more in her heart. She thought that Yun Chujio had deliberately sent her to the Fan family to be humiliated. When she gained a firm foothold in the primordial chaos sect in the future, she would definitely make this little slut suffer. When Fan Mingchuan saw Yun Chujio, he was still as gentle as jade. Even his attitude towards Shui Wuji and Jin Ji was very good. Unfortunately, Yun Chujio ignored him as usual. Fan Mingchuan really wanted to leave with the Fan family's guards, but he felt indignant. Wasn't she just an ordinary stepdaughter? He did not believe that he could not handle her. Therefore, even though Yun Chujio ignored him on the way, Fan Mingchuan still tried to curry favor with her. Shui Wuji watched from the side and was amazed. This Fan Mingchuan was even more attentive than he was back then. Unfortunately, this attention was only superficial. One look and it was obvious that he had other intentions. Half a month later, everyone arrived at the city closest to the primordial chaos sect, Ninghai City. Ninghai City was much bigger than Rising Sky City. It was bustling with life and wealth. The streets were bustling with activity, and there was an endless stream of pedestrians. Little ninth cousin, most of these people are here to apply for the primordial chaos sect. Because it's not time yet, they will temporarily stay in Ninghai Chin, Fan Mingchuan said attentively. Yun Chujio didn't say anything. She thought to herself, isn't this nonsense? Even a fool would know, okay? Fan Mingchuan seemed to have gotten used to this kind of disregard. He still said enthusiastically, little ninth cousin, I've been to Ninghai Chin a few times before. I know an inn that is safe and quiet. Let's go there to stay. After settling in, they'll bring everyone to Ninghai Chin's most famous immortal drunk for a meal. Yun Chujio curled the corners of her lips. Cousin Mingchuan, many thanks to the guards of the Fan family. Since we've already arrived at Ninghai Chin, let's go about our own business. Please go ahead. As Yun Chujio spoke, she turned around and turned into an alley. Shui Wuji and the others naturally followed her. Yi Bingying bit her lips and did not move. The guards of the Yi family were somewhat at a loss. Should they follow the young miss or stay behind to protect the young miss? They all looked at the small leader. The small leader felt that Yi Bingying had a higher chance of entering the primordial chaos sect. Moreover, Yi Wenhong would be the family head of the Yi family in the future, so it was better for them to stay behind to protect Yi Bingying. Therefore, the guards of the Yi family all stayed behind. After Yi Bingying caught a glimpse of it, she was very pleased. Did Yun Chujio really think that she was amazing? At the critical moment, she could see who was the master of the Yi family. Yi Bingying learned her lesson this time. She didn't say anything and just stood quietly at the side. After Fan Mingchuan's expression eased up, she said, Cousin, the most important thing now is the entrance test of the Hunyuan sect. Little Nine and the others didn't have a high chance of getting in, so they didn't put too much effort into it. We are different. Let's pass the entrance exam first and then think about other things. Fan Mingchuan was silent for a while, then said, Let's go. Let's go to the inn first. Yi Bingying was delighted. It seemed that her mother was right. Men like sensible girls. That little bitch Yun Chujio definitely wouldn't be able to get into the Hunyuan sect. When that time came, she would have many opportunities to interact with cousin Mingchuan. He would definitely change his mind. Yun Chujio led the group through an alley and arrived at another street. When she turned around and saw that Fan Mingchuan and Yi Bingying did not follow, she immediately felt refreshed. However, Yi Bingying was a little disappointed. She complained softly to Yun Chujio, Little Jio, those guards actually did not follow us. We are clearly the masters of the Yi family, yet they actually chose to stay there to protect Yi Bingying. This is infuriating. Chapter 2560. Aunt Li, who excels in cooking, Yun Chujio said indifferently, It's just a bunch of fence-sitters, why bother? Let's go, we'll find an inn first and then we'll go out for a walk. Yun Chujio's plan was pretty good, but unfortunately many inns were already full, and even if she gave more spirit stones she couldn't vacate a room. Jin Ji and the others were worried. Were they going to sleep on the streets? Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. I have an idea. Come with me. Everyone was skeptical. What idea did this guy have? Could it be that he was going to take advantage of some evil scheme to scam some innkeeper? Yun Chujio led everyone into a store. The store was an intermediary store. Yun Chujio found a more shrewd-looking broker. I want to buy a courtyard. It's best if it's in the center of the city. It's more spacious and the price can be negotiated. Yun Chujio said generously. The broker saw that Yun Chujio spoke so generously and even bought a big courtyard. The service fee must not be reduced, so he immediately introduced a few courtyards. Yun Chujio finally chose one of the courtyards. After handling the formalities like the deed of the house, everyone settled down. What do you think? If we stay in an inn, we'll need a lot of money and we'll have a place to stay in the future. This is called killing two birds with one stone, Yun Chujio said proudly. Everyone couldn't help but admire this guy's quick thinking. However, this guy was really rich. The houses in Ninghai City were not cheap, especially the courtyard that Yun Chujio bought was in the center of the city, and it was quite spacious. Yi Bingyu suddenly thought of a crucial question. Little Jiu, but what if we can't get into the primordial chaos sect? Wouldn't you have bought this house for nothing? Yun Chujio looked at her as if she was an idiot. Can't get into the sect? Is there anything in the world that I can't get into? Come and read on our website Wuxiao World site. Thanks everyone. Was it really good for you to be so shameless? However, no matter what, they finally had a place to stay. Everyone happily tidied up the house. After a while, the broker brought a middle-aged couple over. Miss Yun, I picked out these couple for you according to your request. These two are honest people. Uncle Lee is honest and hardworking. He also knows how to take care of the flowers and plants. Aunt Lee works very fast. Moreover, her cooking skills are very good. Moreover, the main price for selling them is not high, the broker said in a flattering manner. Yun Chujio sized up the Lee couple. They seemed honest. Anyway, they had the contract to sell their bodies in their hands, so she was not afraid that they would play any tricks. After Yun Chujio paid the spirit stones, she sent the broker away. The Lee couple stood there very restrained, looking at each other at a loss. Uncle Lee, Aunt Lee, you don't have to be nervous. You do your duty well and I won't treat you unfairly. I've asked around and the monthly salary of ordinary servants in Ninghai City is 2,000 upper-grade spirit stones. We'll give you 3,000. In addition, if you perform well, they'll give you more money as appropriate. This is 3 months' monthly salary. I'll give it to you in advance so that you won't be short of money. Uncle Lee and his wife couldn't believe their ears and immediately thanked her profusely. Yun Chujio continued, I've always been generous to my own people. However, there's one thing. If I find out that someone has betrayed me, then I'm sorry. I can only let him know what it means to be cruel and merciless. Uncle Lee and his wife quickly swore to show their loyalty until they swore several times. Yun Chujio smiled and said, as long as there's no disloyalty, I'm still very easy to talk to. Go out and buy some ingredients and daily necessities. Don't be afraid of spending money. Keep these 20,000 high-grade spirit stones for your daily expenses. They'll come over to check the accounts regularly. Yun Chujio said indifferently, it's just a bunch of fence-sitters, why bother? Let's go, we'll find an inn first and then we'll go out for a walk. Yun Chujio's plan was pretty good, but unfortunately many inns were already full, and even if she gave more spirit stones she couldn't vacate a room. Jin Ji and the others were worried. Were they going to sleep on the streets? Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. I have an idea. Come with me. Everyone was skeptical. What idea did this guy have? Could it be that he was going to take advantage of some evil scheme to scam some innkeeper? Yun Chujio led everyone into a store. The store was an intermediary store. Yun Chujio found a more shrewd-looking broker. I want to buy a courtyard. It's best if it's in the center of the city. It's more spacious and the price can be negotiated, Yun Chujio said generously. The broker saw that Yun Chujio spoke so generously and even bought a big courtyard. The service fee must not be reduced, so he immediately introduced a few courtyards. Yun Chujio finally chose one of the courtyards. After handling the formalities like the deed of the house, everyone settled down. What do you think? If we stay in an inn, we'll need a lot of money and we'll have a place to stay in the future. This is called killing two birds with one stone, Yun Chujio said proudly. Everyone couldn't help but admire this guy's quick thinking. However, this guy was really rich. The houses in Ninghai City were not cheap, especially the courtyard that Yun Chujio bought was in the center of the city, and it was quite spacious. Yi Bingyu suddenly thought of a crucial question. Little Jiu, but what if we can't get into the primordial chaos sect? Wouldn't you have bought this house for nothing? Yun Chujio looked at her as if she was an idiot. Can't get into the sect? Is there anything in the world that I can't get into? Everyone, was it really good for you to be so shameless? However, no matter what, they finally had a place to stay. Everyone happily tidied up the house. After a while, the broker brought a middle-aged couple over. Miss Yun, I picked out these couple for you according to your request. These two are honest people. Uncle Lee is honest and hardworking. He also knows how to take care of the flowers and plants. Aunt Lee works very fast. Moreover, her cooking skills are very good. Moreover, the main price for selling them is not high, the broker said in a flattering manner. Yun Chujio sized up the Lee couple. They seemed honest. Anyway, they had the contract to sell their bodies in their hands, so she was not afraid that they would play any tricks. After Yun Chujio paid the spirit stones, she sent the broker away. The Lee couple stood there very restrained, looking at each other at a loss. Uncle Lee, Aunt Lee, you don't have to be nervous. You do your duty well and I won't treat you unfairly. I've asked around and the monthly salary of ordinary servants in Ninghai City is 2,000 upper-grade spirit stones. We'll give you 3,000. In addition, if you perform well, they'll give you more money as appropriate. This is 3 months' monthly salary. I'll give it to you in advance so that you won't be short of money. Uncle Lee and his wife couldn't believe their ears and immediately thanked her profusely. Yun Chujio continued, I've always been generous to my own people. However, there's one thing. If I find out that someone has betrayed me, then I'm sorry. I can only let him know what it means to be cruel and merciless. Uncle Lee and his wife quickly swore to show their loyalty until they swore several times. Yun Chujio smiled and said, as long as there's no disloyalty, I'm still very easy to talk to. Go out and buy some ingredients and daily necessities. Don't be afraid of spending money. Keep these 20,000 high-grade spirit stones for your daily expenses. They'll come over to check the accounts regularly. Uncle Lee took the spirit stones and brought Aunt Lee out of the courtyard to buy some vegetables. Little Jiu, are you so relieved that you let them go? Aren't you afraid that they won't come back after taking the spirit stones? Yibingyu asked in puzzlement. If they don't come back, it's only a loss of 20,000 spirit stones. It's better than staying behind to harm us. Don't worry. That broker is very smart. The people he found won't have any problems. Yun Chujio said indifferently. After about 2 hours, Uncle Lee and his wife came back breathlessly. Apparently they were in a hurry to avoid wasting time. The two of them started to cook again without stopping. Soon, a tempting fragrance drifted out from the kitchen. When the dishes were served, Yun Chujio took a few bites and suddenly felt that the money had been well spent. This fellow silently decided that he would definitely give Aunt Lee more money in a few days. The food was too damn delicious. It was several times more delicious than the food of the Sky-Bearing Alliance. Yun Chujio silently made up her mind. No matter what, this Aunt Lee could not be let go. This was a big treasure. Shui Wuji and the others were also eating until their mouths were dripping with oil. They admired Yun Chujio so much that they were prostrating themselves on the ground. This fellow could actually find a treasure by finding a random servant. They really had no choice but to accept it. On the other side, Fan Mingchuan was drinking tea in the inn, feeling quite pleased with himself. He sneered in his heart that Yun Chujio was really naive. It would not be long before she would take the initiative to come to their door and admit defeat. Right now, Ninghai City was filled with people. All the inns were full. They definitely wouldn't be able to find a place to stay. Fan Mingchuan didn't have any interest in Yun Chujio at all. It was just because of the orders of the head of the Fan family. The head of the Fan family felt that Yun Chujio had made a great contribution to the matter of the Divine Devil Hall. If Yun Chujio joined the Fan family, it would definitely be beneficial to the Fan family's reputation. Most importantly, he could use this as a catalyst to move around with the Sky-Bearing Alliance and the two great sects in the future. This could not be exchanged for anything. Fan Mingchuan heard a guard knocking on the door and pursed his lips. It seemed that Yun Chujio and the others had come to ask for help. After Fan Mingchuan let the guard in, he said proudly, "What? Did Yun Chujio and the others come back? Humph, what you said before sounded nice. Now, aren't they still asking for help from me?" The guard looked embarrassed and stuttered, young master, although Yun Chujio couldn't find the inn, she bought a courtyard." Fan Mingchuan was stunned and let the guard out in a huff. He thought that if Yun Chujio couldn't find the inn, she would come over and give in. He didn't expect her to buy a courtyard. The houses in Ninghai City were not cheap. He did not expect Yun Chujio to be very rich. However, did she really think that she could get into the Chaos Origin sect? She really overestimated herself. However, it was good that she bought a courtyard. In the future, it would be good for them to keep this courtyard for a private meeting. Fan Mingchuan was full of confidence. As long as he got into the Chaos Origin sect and Yun Chujio did not get into the sect, the Yi family would definitely agree to this marriage. At that time, regardless of whether Yun Chujio was willing or not, she could only marry him. Yi Bingying had also received the report from the guards. She curled her lips. That little bitch was really rich, but so what? Let's wait and see. Yun Chujio sent people to inquire about the primordial chaos sect's entrance examinations over the years. The results of the inquiry made their hearts turn cold. The primordial chaos sect only recruited disciples once every 10 years. Moreover, there would be no less than 100,000 people who applied for the examinations every time, but the number of people recruited was only a mere 500 people. Among the 500 people who passed the entrance test every time, only a very small number of them would directly become inner disciples. A small number of them would become outer disciples, while the rest would be odd job workers. It was said that even the odd job workers who passed the test had spiritual power levels above the second level of the spiritual void tier, and those inner disciples were even above the sixth level of the spiritual void tier. Yi Bingyu immediately became listless. Little Jiu, I told you you bought this courtyard in a hurry, right? One of you is at the fifth level of the spiritual void tier, one is at the sixth level of the spiritual void tier, and one is at the seventh level of the spiritual void tier. I am also only at the seventh level of the spiritual void tier. For people like us, even the requirements of the servants are far off. How could we possibly pass the test? Shui Wuji and Jinji also felt that what Yi Bingyu said made sense. Their spiritual power was far too inferior, and little Jiu was probably going to fail this time. As the saying goes, when the cart reaches the mountain, there will always be a way. When the boat reaches the bridge, it will naturally be straight. At worst, you won't be able to pass. Look at all of you, do you have to look so miserable? Yun Chujio said indifferently as she chewed on a fruit. Everyone thought about it and agreed. At worst, they could just go back to school. It wasn't like the sky would collapse just because they couldn't pass the primordial chaos sect test. With that thought, the three of them were no longer so anxious. Yun Chujio flipped through the contents of the entry test again. It had to be said that the primordial chaos sect was very good at playing. Every test had new tricks and some tests were simply meant to prank people. Yun Chujio was very suspicious. The reason why the primordial chaos sect did not register for the entry test was to satisfy their evil prank. A few days later, the entry test for the primordial chaos sect began. When Yun Chujio and the other three arrived at the registration site, they were really shocked. Although there were 20 registration platforms, the line was still several miles long. Yun Chujio estimated that if they were at the end of the line, they wouldn't be able to get in even at night. Let's go. Come back tomorrow. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said, Little Jiu, it'll probably be the same tomorrow. Can't you see that there's still an endless stream of people coming? Jinji pointed at the crowd that kept coming over and said, Don't worry. I have my own ways. Let's go. Seeing that Yun Chujio was confident, Jinji and the other two had no choice but to follow her back to Ninghai City with a dubious look. After entering Ninghai City, Yun Chujio went straight to the store and found the broker from before. Yun Chujio put on an act and said, I'll transfer the spirit stone to you, keep it well. Lu Kai saw the spirit stone that Yun Chujio transferred to him, and his nose almost went crooked from anger. There was only one spirit stone. Damn it, it was actually a low-grade spirit stone. This guy was too stingy. After about 15 minutes, it was the turn of Yun Chujio and the other three. The registration process was very simple. One only needed to hand over the identity document to the disciple in charge of the registration to have a look, and then pay 100 high-grade spirit stones, and they would receive a test jade token. Yun Chujio originally thought that she would be ridiculed and ridiculed by others again, something like how someone with such low spiritual power actually dared to apply for the Hunyuan sect, but she didn't. Yun Chujio couldn't help but sigh in her heart. As expected of a super sect, this disciple's quality was indeed higher. How could she have known that although the disciple in charge of the registration did not show it on the surface in his heart, he simply despised it to no end? Were these four people here to make a joke? The highest level was only at the 7th level of the Lingxian realm, yet they actually wanted to enter the primordial chaos sect. Was there something wrong with their heads? Yun Chujio and the other three returned to Ninghai City with the registration jade tokens, waiting for the entrance test in 5 days. After Yun Chujio returned to the courtyard, she asked Aunt Li to buy a lot of ingredients. She fried, and cooked a lot of dishes before putting them into her storage ring. Little Gio, what are you doing? Yi Bingyu asked in confusion. Eating during the test. It might take us a month to pass all the tests. How can we not prepare something to eat? Aunt Li, if you have time, make some more. When we come back from the test, I'll save it for when we enter the primordial chaos sect. Yun Chujio said loudly. Everyone looked at each other. This guy was really confident. Was she so sure that she could enter the primordial chaos sect? On the evening of the registration, Lu Kai sneaked in. Seeing his happy face, Yun Chujio knew that he had made a lot of money. She smiled and said, "It seems that the profits are not bad. It's all thanks to Miss Yun. These few days I've made more money than I've made in my 10 years as a broker. This is the half of the profits that you should receive." Lu Kai said as he transferred more than 2 million high-grade spirit stones to Yun Chujio. The profits are really not bad. You should open a self-service restaurant first. Don't make it too big, just maintain it for now. After I've established a firm foothold in the primordial chaos sect, well, do other business. Self-service restaurant? Lu Kai had a blank look on his face. What was a self-service restaurant? Yun Chujio briefly explained what a self-service restaurant was to Lu Kai. Hearing this, Lu Kai shook his head repeatedly. Miss Yun, isn't your so-called self-service obviously losing money? A person can pay 200 upper-grade spirit stones and eat as he pleases? If they choose to eat the expensive ones, won't we lose our lives? Jin Ji and the others also felt that what Yun Chujio said was not reliable. Was this little Jio's brain damaged? Yun Chujio said slowly, of course we can't just eat whatever we want. First of all, each customer is limited to 2 hours. After that, they can only leave. Second, those expensive dishes have to be limited in supply. Each person can only receive 1 serving. Finally, for the slightly more expensive dishes, you have to find all kinds of reasons, such as the freshly processed ones. The customers can't wait to eat those cheap foods. Oh right, prepare more fruits, pastries, soup and so on. They won't be able to eat much after drinking enough water. Everyone was stunned when they heard that. Profiteering. A blatant profiteering. Fresh gimmicks coupled with these small tricks would definitely earn her a lot of money. If this fellow didn't become a profiteering merchant, it would be a waste of her bad water. Yun Chujio reminded Lu Kai of some things to take note of. Then she handed over her 2 million yuan to Lu Kai. This is my share. The share is still 50-50. Lu Kai saw that Yun Chujio was so generous. He took the voice transmission talisman that Yun Chujio handed to him and left gratefully. When he was halfway there, he realized that something was wrong. This money was originally earned by him. It turned out that Yun Chujio only needed to move her mouth to take half of the shares of the self-service restaurant. Did he thank her just now? No, the money was supposed to be her share, so it should be her money. Lu Kai was confused in the end. He didn't want to think about it anymore. Anyway, he felt that it was impossible for him to plot against Yun Chujio. It was better to be obedient. At this moment, Yun Chujio was showing off. How is it? It won't be long before the money for the courtyard is out. How do you think I'm so good at making money? Was I the god of wealth in my previous life? The corners of everyone's eyes twitched. No one paid any attention to her and they all returned to their own rooms. A certain Jio saw that no one was there to support her, so she could only return to her bedroom in embarrassment. Zai Invincible was really lonely. 5 days passed in the blink of an eye. Early in the morning on this day, everyone rushed to the front gate of the Hunyuan sect after having breakfast. The front gate was densely packed with people. It was so bustling that it was so noisy that it made one's head hurt. Yun Chujio could not help but wonder how could they conduct the test with so many people. When Yun Chujio was stretching her neck and looking around, she heard someone say, "Cousin Xiaojio, I reckon that you will be eliminated in the first round. At that time you will wait for my news at your residence. We will discuss the matter of the engagement before you go back." Yun Chujio looked at Fan Mingchuan speechlessly. "Cousin Mingchuan, are you talking nonsense before you wake up? Don't say that I'll definitely pass the test. Even if I don't pass the test, I won't get engaged to you. If you really want to get married, Sister Bingying is more than happy to do so. Just make do with it." Yi Bingying was both embarrassed and angry at the sight. She looked at Fan Mingchuan eagerly, wanting to hear what he had to say. Fan Mingchuan's expression was not very good, but he still said gently, Cousin Jiao, I like you. How can I marry someone else? Don't worry. As long as the test is over, I will send someone to the Yi family to propose marriage. I believe that great-grandfather will definitely agree to our marriage. After saying that, Fan Mingchuan did not care whether Yun Chujiao agreed or not. He turned around and left. Yi Bingying glared fiercely at Yun Chujiao and hurriedly chased after her. Yun Chujiao was simply speechless. It seemed that she had to enter the primordial chaos sect no matter what. Otherwise, old Master Yi might really agree to the Fan family's marriage. Shui Wuji's eyes flashed. If that facial paralysis knew that little sister Jiao had a persistent suitor, what would his reaction be? He was really looking forward to it. Should he tell that facial paralysis? Speaking of which, that facial paralysis had not come over for a long time. He did not know if he was still alive. Forget it, let's pass the test first. At this moment, a loud voice rang out in everyone's ears. Contestants, I'm very happy that all of you have come to participate in the Primordial Chaos Sect's entrance test. Now all of you will enter the first round of the test. I wish all of you good luck. Yun Chujiao could hear a strong sense of schadenfreude from these words. It was likely that this first round of the test would cause a lot of trouble. Moreover, how could there be a test that did not even mention how to pass? Could it be that everyone had to guess for themselves? Just as Yun Chujia's mind was running wild, a white light flashed in front of her eyes. When she regained her sight, she realized that she had already entered the Hunyuan sect. The halls and pavilions were extremely beautiful. There were even misty clouds that lingered around. It was really like a fairyland on earth. Yun Chujiao looked around and saw that there were still quite a number of people around her. With this guy's photographic memory, she could tell that these people were those who were originally standing near her. Of course, Shui Wuji, Jinji, and Yi Bingyu were also beside her. Little Jiao, what's the meaning of this? Why did you teleport us into the Chaos Origin sect? What do we have to do to pass the first round of the test? Jinji asked in puzzlement. Shui Wuji rubbed his chin. Could this be an illusion? Could it be that we broke out of this illusion and got out? Yun Chujiao looked at Shui Wuji speechlessly. Brother Wuji, this is indeed an illusion, but it's not an illusion. If it's an illusion, the illusion will be broken when you realize it's an illusion. Why would you stay here? I think we're in the same array formation. As for how to pass the test, I don't know. Let's go ahead and take a look. Shui Wuji laughed dryly. Although I'm smart, I'm still a little inferior to little sister Jiao. I'll listen to you and do as you say. Yi Bingyu curled her lips at the side. Why did she fall for such an idiot back then? She was really blind. The rest of the candidates were also at a loss and began to look around for clues. The Hunyuan sect was very big and there was a no-fly zone here. Yun Chujiao and the other three climbed to a higher place with great difficulty and looked around. There were clouds and mist everywhere. Nothing could be seen at all. Everyone could not help but feel a little discouraged. This was the first time they had encountered such a test. They could not even guess the intentions of the question setter. Could they pass the test? In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Compared to Jinji and the others who were frowning, Yun Chujiao was able to find joy in her misery. It seems that I was right to ask Aunt Li to prepare food, right? Come, there will always be a way. There will be a way sooner or later. Although everyone was not in a good mood, they still ate some food and then casually found a large hall to meditate and rest. Yun Chujiao recalled some of the records she had read about the tests of the Primordial Chaos Sect. During the tests of the Primordial Chaos Sect, they would often make some bad moves, most likely to make fun of people. This time was probably no exception. How could she be considered as making fun of people? If it was her, how would she torment these examinees? What kind of things would a person encounter that would make them flustered and feel like they were being fooled? At this moment, on the huge square of the Primordial Chaos Sect, several huge shadow stones were showing the candidates list. There were fights, some crying and sad and some giving up. Only a few people were calm and collected. Many people wearing the uniform of the Primordial Chaos Sect were holding melon seeds in their hands and sitting on small stools. They watched and pointed at the candidates while laughing at them. Every time the Primordial Chaos Sect's entrance test was held, it was a carnival. At this time, whether it was the elders or the servants, they could all come and watch these people make a fool of themselves. It was as if this way they could calm down the 10,000 points of damage that they had received during the entrance test. As it was the first round of the test, some heavyweights did not come. However, this did not prevent the delicious taste of the entire sex entertainment feast. It was as if the 10 years of waiting for this day had been for this day. The entire primordial chaos sect was filled with laughter. They did not feel embarrassed at all. After all, they had all been toyed with like this. In any case, those participants had all voluntarily signed up. It was not like they had forced them with knives. Therefore, they could only admit that they were unlucky. Look, those people are fighting to the death. Do they think that they are the winners after killing everyone? They are really stupid. Would the primordial chaos sect want to harm their fellow sect members? That's right, they are so stupid. And those who cry for the sky and cry for tears. If crying can solve the problem, the immortal essence continent will be full of people long ago. Everyone felt that this batch of examinees this year was really stupid. Only a very small number of people were still calm. It was likely that 80% of the candidates would be eliminated in the first round. At the beginning, everyone was still in high spirits. Later they became a little tired of the aesthetics. Therefore some people reminded the disciples in charge of the test, "Hey, back then we were attacked by demon beast. Hurry up and release the demon beast. Oh right, we also experienced a great flood back then. Hurry up, I want to see how those girls fell into the water. Haha, right, hurry up and magnify the flood." The disciples in charge of controlling the array formation also felt that it was about time, so they began to control the array formation. Immediately, a flood suddenly appeared in the illusory realm, and the monstrous waves drowned the entire primordial chaos sect. Only a few of the tallest mountains were exposed. Immediately, a wave of miserable howls sounded. Although cultivators held their breath longer than ordinary people, it was impossible for them to survive in the water for long periods of time. Therefore, everyone could only think of ways to survive. Basically, they were holding on to floating logs. There were also many people who were eyeing the exposed mountains. Hence, the battle began once again. Just as everyone was watching with great interest, they heard someone exclaim, Hey, quick, look over here." When everyone heard this, many people's gazes were focused on the shadow stone number 9. They saw a large ship amidst the monstrous flood. On the deck stood a little girl. They did not know what that little girl was gesturing about. Then some people were dragged onto the large ship by her. When the big ship couldn't fit anymore, she actually made another big ship, and then many people got on that ship. When that ship couldn't fit anymore, she made another ship. Fuck. Is that little girl's family a shipyard? Why are there so many ships? And what was she doing just now? Someone who could read lips said stiffly to the crowd, "She said she can get on the ship. Each person has 20,000 high-grade spirit stones. She doesn't cheat anyone and she doesn't owe anyone anything." The crowd. Fuck. Was this guy here to test or to make money? 20,000 high-grade spirit stones per person? There were at least 5,000 people in the test area she was in. Didn't she earn 100 million high-grade spirit stones all of a sudden? Everyone's eyes turned red. They suddenly felt that the melon seeds in their hands were tasteless. Could actually be like this? She actually came to participate in a test and earned a pot full of money? It was really too enviable. Those people were the same. What was wrong with soaking in the water? Wouldn't it be fine to get a piece of wood to hold for a while? Why did he have to spend money to be a spendthrift? Someone gnashed his teeth and said, "Since the flood is useless, then we'll add some seasoning to Area 9. We'll get some aquatic demon beasts to attack them. We'll get some huge ones, the ones that can topple the boat with a single tail." The disciples who were controlling the array were also unwilling, so they really released a few huge aquatic beasts into Area 9. At this moment in Area 9, a certain Geo's eyes were almost turning into sparkling spirit stones. She originally wanted to find the array core and break this bullshit array so that she wouldn't be fooled by others. But she didn't expect that this was actually a golden avenue to make a fortune. Since that was the case, she would just stay inside. After all, she did not cry or make a fuss, and she did not kill her companions. She should be considered to have good willpower. The candidates who were saved on the ship were feeling complicated at the moment. Although Yun Chujio had the intention of taking advantage of the situation, she was the one who saved them after all. Otherwise, in order to fight for those peaks, they would definitely suffer countless casualties. Yun Chujio was about to sell more food to the crowd when she saw the waves rolling in the distance. Someone exclaimed, "Yes, it's an aquatic beast. A few aquatic beasts. We're doomed." Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. What are you panicking for? It's just some aquatic beast. The crowd was so angry that they wanted to strangle this guy. What did he mean by just? That was an aquatic beast. And from the looks of it, its level wasn't low. They would definitely be eaten. Although they weren't really dead, no one wanted to experience the taste of death. Moreover, once they died, there was a high chance that they would be eliminated, alright? Yun Chujio said with a smile. I have a waterproof pearl here. It costs 10,000 high-grade spirit stones each. If you want to buy it, hurry up and buy it. You'd better buy more. After all, this thing doesn't expire. If you keep it, it might increase in value. Back when Yun Chujio destroyed Yongxing Trading Company in the Endless Sea, she had bought many large ships and waterproof pearls. Now she could exchange them for some money. Although everyone knew that this waterproof pearl was only sold for 2,000 high-grade spirit stones outside, the situation was urgent now, so they could only buy it one after another. Yun Chujio let Shui Wuji and the other two continue their business while she jumped into the water. Everyone was stunned. Was this little girl crazy because she made too much money? She committed suicide by jumping into the river? Wasn't she taking the initiative to be a snack for those demonic beasts? However, seeing that her companion wasn't anxious at all, what was going on? Everyone didn't have time to think too much. It was more important to buy the waterproof pearl first. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to escape if the boat sank later. The reason why Greedy Nine jumped into the water was to attract the attention of the demonic beasts so that they wouldn't sink the boat. After all, the waterproof beads weren't sold out yet. After Yun Chujio swam into the water, she swam towards the aquatic demonic beasts. After thinking for a while, she took out a piece of white cloth and waved it. Hey, Lord Demonic Beasts, I'm coming. I took the initiative to let you eat. Come and eat me. There won't be such a shop after this village. My meat is delicious and you won't forget it when you eat it. Come and eat me. 5 level 42 bloodthirsty stinger sharks swam over. Not only were they huge, but they also had a long spike on their forehead that was shining with a faint blue light. When the 5 bloodthirsty stinger sharks heard Yun Chujio's words, they could not help but stop moving forward. Something was wrong. There was definitely something wrong with this little human girl. How could there be a human who would take the initiative to let them eat her? This was not normal. Also, what the hell was that thing that she was waving in her hand? Was it a spiritual weapon? Why didn't she feel any spiritual energy fluctuations? The 5 bloodthirsty sharks were at a loss for a moment, so they did not dare to act rashly. Their huge eyes stared at Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio felt that she was most likely a demon beast in her previous life. Or why did she feel that demon beasts were not scary at all and were much cuter than humans? Xiao Hanyo silently ridiculed Pop. What's cute? You just feel that demonic beasts are generally easier to fool than humans. Shameless. Yun Chujio followed the principle of if the enemy doesn't move, I won't move. She smiled as she looked at the 5 bloodthirsty thorn sharks as if they were really here to die. After a while, one of the bloodthirsty thorn sharks could not hold it in any longer. Regardless of whether it was an overt scheme or a conspiracy, she would eat it first. Hence, the bloodthirsty shark suddenly rushed towards Yun Chujio. I was just being polite. Are you really going to eat it? You are really shameless. Yun Chujio shouted as she sprinkled a large basin of ink into the water. Instantly, the water turned pitch black and her vision became blurry. Yun Chujio took advantage of this moment to swim far away. When the bloodthirsty sharks regained their vision, they only saw a small bubble. The 5 bloodthirsty sharks immediately knew that they were being teased. They were so angry that they let out a sharp cry and chased after Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio swam to a few large ships and shouted, Hey, other than those with fire spirit roots, come down and take care of these demonic beasts. If we don't kill them, we won't be able to recover. Everyone knew that what Yun Chujio said was the truth. Now they could only give it their all. Moreover, although they were not as agile as aquatic demonic beasts in the water, they had more people and they had waterproof beads. It was not a problem to deal with 5 bloodthirsty thorn sharks. Therefore, everyone jumped into the water and surrounded one bloodthirsty thorn shark and began to fight. Yun Chujio thought that she had successfully completed the task of attracting the demon beasts, so she shamelessly cheered for everyone. Good fight. Good fight. I have high hopes for all of you. Yes, cut its eyes. Its eyes are definitely its weakness. Apart from its eyes, its anus is also its weakness. Attack it together. Kill it. Although everyone was angry, they felt that it was a little more efficient for someone to command them, so they followed Yun Chujia's instructions. After nearly 2 hours, the 5 bloodthirsty stinger sharks were all killed. Then they turned into bubbles and disappeared. Everyone was panting as they climbed onto the boat. Although they were a little tired, they were a little excited. If they were alone, they would not have been able to kill a bloodthirsty stinger shark. But now they had done it. This was the first time they experienced the power of teamwork. The original strangeness and estrangement between them seemed to have been eliminated a lot. The people on the deck began to chat and laugh. Although they were competitors, it did not prevent them from being teammates at the moment. A certain Jia wasn't concerned about these people's soul sublimation. She moved closer to Shui Wuji and the other two and asked secretly, "How much did you earn?" The 3 of them looked at her speechlessly and transferred the spirit stones they received to her. Yun Chuji was so happy that she couldn't close her mouth. In order to save their lives, these people naturally wouldn't just buy one waterproof bead. They only bought a few beads and each bead was worth 10,000 yuan. One could imagine how much money this guy had earned. Shui Wuji and the other 2 were speechless and convinced. This was just the first round of testing, and this guy had already earned hundreds of millions of high-grade spirit stones. If all the tests were completed, this guy would probably earn more money than he could count. Shui Wuji lowered his voice and asked in puzzlement, "Little Sister Jiao, your money now is probably more than that of the primordial chaos sect. Why did you earn so much money?" "It's fun. I like to watch the pile of spirit stones that look like a small mountain. It's so fun to see them glistening," Yun Chujio said with a smile. Shui Wuji pursed his lips. "Alright, let's pretend that he didn't ask anything." In the square of the primordial chaos sect, everyone was no longer looking at the other shadow stones. They were all looking at the number 9 shadow stone. Someone was counting with his fingers, then he shouted in disbelief, "Oh my god! That little girl actually earned another 300 million high-grade spirit stones. It's like picking up money." Everyone silently calculated their own wealth. It seemed that they only had tens of millions of high-grade spirit stones. Some even had a few million high-grade spirit stones. And that little girl had earned several hundred million just by taking the entrance exam. How could the gap between humans be so huge? They were too ashamed to live. Of course, there were still a portion of people whose red-eye disease was seriously acting up. If the flood won't do, then we'll have a drought. We'll create a volcano and heat them to death. The people in Area 9 are too stupid. It would be better if they were all eliminated. That's right. That little girl was cheated out of tens of thousands of spirit stones just like that. It's impossible for such people to pass the subsequent tests. We'll let them heat up until they're half dead and then we'll let the demonic beasts attack them. They'll definitely die. The disciples in charge of the tests were having an even more intense bout of red-eye syndrome. Thus, they disregarded the rules of the test and actually started to let the flood waters recede, forcefully creating a volcano in Area 9. Coincidentally, Elder Linghu, who was in charge of the array formation, was not present. The one controlling the array formation was his eldest disciple, Bian Chen. Bian Chen's eyes flickered, but he did not stop them. In Area 9, before everyone could recover from their excitement, they realized that the flood was slowly receding, and they felt extremely hot. Look. Why is there a volcano there all of a sudden? There wasn't one just now. This place was originally an illusion. It's normal for anything to appear here. Looks like there's a new test. It's too hot. And it's getting hotter and hotter. This is even worse than the flood. I feel like I'm going to die from the heat. Yun Chujio and the others didn't feel too hot because they had the beads of Guaichao. Of course, Yun Chujio wasn't stupid enough to sell the beads of Guaichao. However, if all these people died from the heat, if there were other tests to follow, the 4 of them alone wouldn't be able to pass. Therefore, it was better to think of a way to save these people. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and shouted to the crowd, "If you want to live, quickly put the flood water into your storage rings. The sooner the better." Everyone's eyes lit up. Using water to cool down was a good idea, so everyone began to collect the flood water. They did not care whether there was a container or not, so they simply put it all into their storage rings. Although everyone's reaction was rather quick, the flood had already receded before they could collect much. Everyone looked at Yun Chujio with eager eyes. The flood that they had collected was probably only enough to soak in a few times. What could they do? If you believe me, just do as I say. At the very least, I can guarantee that you will be able to preserve a certain amount of your physical strength. You won't be unable to resist when danger comes, Yun Chujio said to everyone with a smile. Although the crowd didn't know Yun Chujio and they knew that her spiritual power was low, they couldn't help but have some trust in her, perhaps because she had saved them previously. Of course, the truest thought in their hearts was that this little girl was greedy. If they really couldn't do it, they would give her spiritual stones. Even if it was for the sake of spiritual stones, she probably wouldn't harm them. Seeing that everyone had no objections, Yun Chujio pointed at a palace in the distance. Let's go there. That place is spacious enough and it's a little further away from the volcano. Hearing that, everyone got off the ship and jumped towards the palace. After entering the palace, everyone was a little disappointed. Although this palace was quite far from the volcano, it was even more stuffy. It wasn't as cool as being outside. Yun Chujio took out a pen and paper, sketched for a while and then assigned everyone to work. Although everyone did not understand Yun Chujio's intention, they still followed her instructions and started to work. 2 hours later, the people in the room who were drenched in sweat suddenly felt a chill. Moreover, there was a cool breeze coming from the main hall which made people feel so comfortable that they wanted to roar a few times. The people curiously walked out of the main hall. They saw a deep trench about 10 feet deep around the main hall. In front of the main hall was a huge pit filled with water. There was something made of wood inside that kept pouring water onto the roof of the main hall. The water dripped into the trench and flowed back into the deep pit. The bottom of the pit and the bottom of the trench were paved with green stone slabs to prevent water from seeping into the soil. No wonder it was so cool. The cold water flowed down from the eaves of the roof and formed a curtain of water. It stirred up the cool air and naturally eased the heat. Everyone clicked their tongues in wonder and praised Yun Chujio for being too smart. Yun Chujio pretended to be humble and said a few words. She thought to herself that this was just a superficial effort. The water would soon be heated by the sun and would not be of much use. She had to add the cool water from the great void mystic realm into it. No one knew about this. They only thought that the collected flood water was enough. Everyone sat on the ground, resting and eating. Perhaps they had calmed down and felt much cooler. The people on the square were dumbfounded. How could this work? Some people blamed the disciples who were controlling the array formation. Are you stupid? Why didn't you wait for the flood to be over before setting up the volcano? If it weren't for the flood, they would have been half dead from the heat. The disciples who were controlling the array formation were already mad. After being blamed by these people again, they were so angry that they were twitching. They gritted their teeth and released several high-level fire-type demonic beasts. Some people felt that it was a little too much. After all, there were only floods in other areas. However, not only were there aquatic demonic beasts in Area 9, but there was also a volcano. Now, there were actually so many high-level fire-type demonic beasts. It was obvious that the people in Area 9 were not allowed to pass the test. Some people could not stand it anymore. They took out their identity jade tokens and reported the matter to Elder Ling Hu. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. In Area 9, everyone was meditating. The person on duty shouted in panic, "There are demonic beasts coming from the distance." A group of 43-level fire-breathing bald-back wolves. The people in the room immediately exploded. 43 level? That's equivalent to the first to second levels of the spiritual space of humans. Moreover, it's a group of them. How can we defeat them? Yeah, the most dangerous ones are the fire-type demonic beast. Not only are they not afraid of high temperatures, but they also like this kind of high-temperature weather. I'm afraid we're really going to be eliminated. Just the first round of the test is already so abnormal. As expected, not just anyone can enter the Chaos Origin sect. Yun Chujio smashed a few tables into pieces with her palm. Shut up. If they had the time to grind their teeth, they might as well study how to deal with those fire-breathing bald-back wolves. Now they had no other choice but to fight them. Fortunately, we have more people and we are much smarter than the demonic beast. As long as we work together, we can definitely kill them. Although everyone quieted down, they still felt that even if they could win this battle, a large number of people would die. In that case, who was willing to be the cannon fodder at the front? I know what you guys are thinking. Isn't it just that no one is willing to rush to the front and be the scapegoat? Each group was then divided into 3 groups, taking turns to fight in close combat, rotating once every 15 minutes. You guys can't even resist for 15 minutes, right? Yun Chujio asked with slight contempt. Although most of the people's spiritual power levels were around the 3rd to 5th level of the spiritual void tier, it was still not a problem for so many people to hold on for 15 minutes. Therefore no one raised any objections. In that case, let's go out and face the enemy. The brave will win when we meet on a narrow path. Show your imposing manner. Were the 5,000 people afraid of dozens of fire-breathing bald-back wolves? Don't you feel very humiliated? If the observers outside saw how cowardly you are, would they accept you? It was unknown whether Yun Chujia's last sentence had hit the nail on the head of everyone. In short, everyone's courage was stimulated by Yun Chujia's boisterous words. All of them held their heads high and puffed out their chests as they stormed out of the palace. The people on the square of the primordial chaos sect could not help but click their tongues in wonder. Did these people not know that they were facing a group of fire-breathing bald-back wolves at level 43? They were actually fearless. Was it ignorance or fearlessness? When everyone reached the open space outside the hall, Yun Chujio drew a long line with Cinnabar not far away from them. Everyone was baffled. Why did she draw a line out of nowhere? Was everyone preparing to race? Not long after Yun Chujio finished drawing the line, the pack of fire-breathing bald-back wolves had already arrived in front of her. Hey, I'm warning you not to cross this red line, or else your lives will be in danger. Yun Chujio pointed at the pack of wolves with one hand on her waist and the other. Everyone behind Yun Chujio was dumbfounded. Was this guy crazy? Would those fire-breathing bald-back wolves be afraid of the red line you drew? Stop bullshitting. Unless the heads of those fire-breathing bald-back wolves were broken. Coincidentally, the people found that the heads of these fire-breathing bald-back wolves seemed to be fucking broken. Although the fire-breathing bald-back wolves kept drooling, they were still hesitant and didn't dare to cross the red line. What the hell? Was their brain really damaged? They didn't know that wolves were the most suspicious demonic beast. They weren't afraid of the red line but of everyone's imposing manner. If everyone was cowardly, they would definitely attack together. However, seeing that no one was afraid, they became suspicious. Could it be that these people had prepared a trap and were waiting for them to jump in? After a quarter of an hour of confrontation, the wolf pack began to get restless. It looked like they were ready to attack. Come on. We just happen to have some wolf meat for a meal. I heard that your meat is delicious. Whether it's braised or stewed, it's fragrant. I've been craving for it for a long time. Come over. My babies, don't be afraid. Our big pot is waiting for you. Yun Chujio said as she wiped her saliva with her hand. The wolf pack could not help but take a few steps back because they could really see the look in the little girl's eyes that she wanted to eat them. It was so scary. The wolf pack hesitated again. They felt that there must be a conspiracy. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, shouldn't these people be terrified? Why did they still want to eat them? The people on the square of the Origin Chaotic Sect were all dumbfounded. That little girl leaned against a red line and said a few words, forcefully scaring the group of fire-breathing bald-back wolves. How was this possible? The disciple who was controlling the array was about to release some more fire-type demonic beasts when he heard a shout. Stop. What nonsense. Who allowed you to increase the difficulty of the test? Bianchen, why didn't you stop them? The person who came was Elder Ling Hu. His face was ashen and he was clearly very angry. He had something urgent to attend to and left for a while. He had thought that it would only be the first round of the test and that Bianchen would be in charge without any problems. He had not expected that they would increase the difficulty of Area 9 without permission, and even increase it again and again. They were really audacious. Bien Chen's pupils constricted, and then he said with a face full of self-blame, Master, this matter is not at the fault of the junior brothers. It was my idea. I am not targeting the candidates from Region 9, but the other regions have already eliminated close to 70% of the candidates, while Region 9 has only eliminated a few dozen people. That is why I asked the junior brothers to increase the difficulty of the test. If Master wants to punish, then punish me alone. When the disciples who controlled the array saw that Bien Chen had taken all the responsibility, they immediately revealed grateful expressions. As expected of senior brother Bien Chen. He really loved his fellow disciples and was also responsible. When Elder Ling Hu heard Bianchen say this, his expression softened a little. Although what you said makes sense since they were able to pass, it means that they have the strength or luck. They shouldn't increase the difficulty of the test. This is unfair to them. Quickly withdraw the increased difficulty. After the test, we will announce the results of your punishment. Everyone nodded their heads repeatedly. The difficulty of the number 9 good area quickly returned to normal. Yun Chujiao and the others were confronting the wolf pack when the wolf pack suddenly disappeared. Moreover, the volcano was also nowhere to be seen. Instead, the flood came again. Everyone looked at Yun Chujiao. This guy wouldn't charge another fare, right? Yun Chujiao was delighted. I'm not that greedy. All of you get on the ship. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief and boarded the boat. They could finally catch their breath. Elder Ling Hu looked at the scene on the number 9 Shadow Rock and raised his hand to let Bianchen go over. He wanted him to tell him in detail what had happened. Bianchen told him what had happened. He did not exaggerate or distort the facts. After all, there were many people present. If he lied, it would be easily exposed. As no one could see what had happened in the water or the palace, they could only see part of the scene. Elder Ling's impression of Yun Chujiao was limited to this little girl who was greedy and clever. Not many people knew about Yun Chujiao and the Divine Devil Hall. Only Master Bailey and a small number of people in the Primordial Chaos sect knew about it. Elder Ling Hu did not know about it, so he did not know Yun Chujiao. After listening to Bianchen's story, he had some impression of Yun Chujiao. However, he felt that Yun Chujiao's spiritual power was too low. Even if she was a little clever, it would be difficult for her to reach the end. When the time for the test arrived, the people who passed the first round of the test were transported to another square in the Primordial Chaos sect. About 70% of the participants were eliminated in the first round of the test. Only a few dozen people were eliminated in Area 9. The people in Area 9 immediately felt relieved that they had been cheated out of tens of thousands of spiritual stones by Yun Chujiao. They also decided that if possible, it would be best to follow this little girl. Perhaps they would really be able to pass the test without any obstacles. Before they could recover from the excitement of passing the first round of the test, they heard someone say, "Congratulations on passing the first round of the test. Now the second round of the test begins." As soon as that person said that, a white light flashed in front of their eyes. When they opened their eyes again, they were already in a forest. That voice rang in their ears again with a slightly evil smile. The content of the second round of the test is very simple. It is the survival test without spirit energy. In other words, you are unable to use spiritual power here, and you are also unable to use storage rings and spiritual beast bags. Those who can survive in this demonic beast forest for 10 days will be considered to have passed the test. I will be waiting for you in the third round of the test. I wish you good luck. Everyone wanted to curse when they heard this. Sealing their spiritual power and throwing them into the demonic beast forest, how could they survive for 10 days? Not to mention 10 days, even 10 hours was impossible, okay? This primordial chaos sex test was really abnormal. This time, everyone was not teleported together. Instead, 3 to 5 people were teleported to the same place. This demonic beast forest was extremely large, so the chances of encountering other people were very small. Fortunately, Yun Chujiao had a trick up her sleeve. When she heard the voice, she held hands with Jin Ji and the others to prevent them from being separated during the teleportation. Therefore, the 4 of them were teleported to the same place as they wished. After listening to the content of the test, Jin Ji and the other 2 were dumbfounded. Oh my god, aren't they asking us to wait for death? Let's not talk about the demonic beast's attacks. There's no water and no food. Aren't they asking us to starve to death? I've never heard of such a test. It's too much. Yibingyu said angrily. Jin Ji and Shui Wuji also echoed her. How could she live without spiritual power? A certain Jiao and Jiao Yi looked calm. In her previous life, she had been thrown into the primeval forest for survival training. This was not difficult for her at all. However, it was a bit troublesome when she encountered demonic beasts. Yun Chujiao waited until Jin Ji and the other 2 had almost vented their anger. Then she said faintly, "Are you done complaining? Now let's go find food and water." "Little Jiao, there are trees here. How can there be food? Are we going to eat leaves to satisfy our hunger in the future?" Moreover, we didn't hear the sound of water. Will there be a stream here? Jinji said with a frown. First, there must be plants in the forest besides trees. Some of the tubers of the plants can completely satisfy our hunger. Second, since there are demonic beasts here, there must be a water source. In the worst-case scenario, we can still hunt some demon beasts and use them to supplement food and water, Yun Chujio said confidently. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Jinji and the other two listened to Yun Chujio's words, their faces stiff. Little Jio, are you sure that we are using the demon beasts as food and water? Are you saying the opposite? We are almost useless now, how can we defeat those demon beasts? Moreover, we don't know what level of demon beasts they have arranged for us. If they are below rank 5, perhaps we can use our agile skills to subdue them, but if they are above rank 5, we have no chance of winning at all. Yi Bingyu looked dejected. She was really going to be eliminated this time. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. Your words remind me that we are not in a hurry to find food and water. We have to make some defensive tools first. Otherwise, it will be bad if we encounter demon beast. Don't worry. No matter how abnormal they are, they want to range high-level demon beasts to deal with us poor defenseless people. After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she took out a dagger from her boot. Everyone, what happened to being defenseless? Why was there a dagger in her boot? This dagger was given to her by Di Biming. This guy knew that he was a troublemaker, so he had always hidden the dagger in the gap of his boot. Anyway, this dagger was extremely small, so it didn't affect his walking speed. Shui Wuji and the other two made up their minds. They would definitely hide a dagger in their boots in the future. This small dagger was a life-saving straw at the critical moment. Yun Chujio took the dagger and made a few simple bows and arrows. The body of the bow was made of tree branches, and the bowstring was made of a kind of vine. Then she used the sharp tree branches as arrows. Yun Chujio tried it. It was not a problem to shoot an ordinary rabbit to death. If she encountered a low-level demon beast, she could only shoot it at the eyes. In addition to the bow and arrows, Yun Chujio made 4 simple javelins. They could be used as crutches and self-defense. It was the best. Shui Wuji and the other two looked on in a daze. They felt that compared to Yun Chujio they were like idiots. Yun Chujio looked around again. She cut a lot of vines and let everyone carry them on their backs. Jinji asked in confusion, Little Jio, why are you carrying this thing? It's so heavy. It's better to be prepared than to die. I tried these vines just now and they are very strong. If we encounter a demon beast that we can't deal with, these vines might be able to give us a helping hand. Moreover, these vines are hollow and the juice inside isn't poisonous. When we are thirsty to the point of no return, we can use it to save our lives. The 3 of them then realized that the 2 ends of the vines had been tied by Yun Chujio to prevent the juice from flowing out. The 3 of them looked at each other. Because of Little Jio, the second round of the test did not seem to be so difficult for them. Just when the 3 of them were about to ask Yun Chujio which direction to go, they saw this guy climb up the treetop, looked around from the top and then climb down. Let's go east. I see that the trees in the east are growing more luxuriously. There should be a water source there, Yun Chujio said. Little sister Jio, the closer we are to the water source, the more demonic beasts there should be. Wouldn't it be more dangerous if we go there? Shui Wuji asked in confusion. Brother Wuji, what you said makes sense, but the food will only be more abundant if we are close to the water source. If we stay here, we will be thirsty and hungry. I'm afraid that we will lose our fighting strength in 3 days at most. If we encounter demonic beasts, we will definitely die. Since that's the case, we might as well go ahead and take a look. When the time comes, we'll act according to the situation. At most, we'll hunt some low-level demon beasts at the edge and then retreat. Shui Wuji nodded when he heard Yun Chujio's words. Alright, well, listen to your arrangements then. Let's set off. The 4 of them headed east. Yun Chujio would occasionally stop and instruct the 3 of them to dig out the roots of some plants. Although the roots they dug out were not very big, it was better than nothing. This demonic beast forest was obviously meticulously designed. So far, not a single wild fruit had been found, so these roots were especially precious. Everyone carefully put the roots they dug out into the small basket. The small basket was woven by Yun Chujio using branches. The inside was covered with wide leaves, so she was not afraid that the things inside would leak out. Without their spiritual power, it was easy for them to get tired. After walking for more than 4 hours they began to pant. A certain Jiao on the other hand was fine. Seeing that the 3 of them could not walk anymore, Yunchujiao could only take a break. The 4 of them ate some roots and drank a little of the juice of the vines. They finally felt a little better. It's only been a few hours and I already feel more tired than killing a high-level demon beast. 10 days is too long. Yi Bingyu sighed. Yunchujiao bared her little white teeth. Although the primordial chaos sex test is a little damaged, this kind of test is also necessary. Firstly, it is to test everyone's physical strength, and secondly, it is to test everyone's adaptability. Some people have been neglecting their movement techniques and physical strength. This round of test can give everyone some warning. I am becoming more and more fond of the primordial chaos sect. After entering the sect, life will definitely be very interesting. Everyone was already immune to Yunchujiao's mysterious self-confidence, so they automatically ignored her last sentence. After the 4 of them rested, they continued to walk east. Until the sun set, they did not find any food other than water and roots. However, fortunately, they did not encounter any demon beasts. Yunchujiao felt that the designer of the test would not release the demon beasts so early. He would definitely wait until everyone's stamina was almost exhausted before releasing the demon beasts. Jinji and the other 2 looked at each other. There was a huge problem in front of them now, and that was fire. When they had spiritual power, they could use the fire stones or fire talismans in their storage rings to start a fire. If they had fire spiritual roots, it would be more convenient. With a wave of their hands, they would be able to create a fireball. However, what should they do now? How could they raise the fire? It was cold at night in the forest. If there was no fire, they would definitely shiver from the cold. Besides, raising a bonfire could also prevent some demon beasts from ambushing. Yunchujiao smiled smugly. Wasn't this simple? Drilling wood to make fire. Of course, drilling wood to make fire sounded simple, but it was quite difficult to operate. Therefore, Yunchujiao let Shui Wuji operate while she commanded from the side. Shui Wuji felt that his hands were almost worn out. The spark finally ignited the dry moss on the ground and then lit the firewood below. The 4 of them looked at the bonfire and could not help but smile at each other. Sometimes, when a person was in a difficult situation, a bonfire could bring great excitement and satisfaction to them. After a while, Yunchujiao moved the bonfire away and spread thick leaves on it, indicating that everyone could rest. Everyone laid on the bonfire and felt warm. They admired Yunchujiao so much that they prostrated themselves on the ground. Everyone took turns to be on night duty. That night nothing happened. There were no demonic beasts that came to ambush them. The next day, everyone extinguished the bonfire and continued heading east. As they had only eaten a few roots and the quantity was still limited, everyone's stamina decreased very quickly. The speed of their journey became slower and slower. Yunchujiao frowned. If this continued, it wouldn't be good. They had to think of a way to fill their stomachs. Yunchujiao took advantage of the break in the afternoon to climb to the top of a big tree again and looked around. This demon beast forest was boundless and there was no end to it at all. Yunchujiao originally planned to see if there were any bird nests on the surrounding trees, but she found nothing. This meant that there were no flying demon birds here. Yunchujiao could only climb down the tree in disappointment. How about this? We won't go forward for the time being. Everyone dig more of those roots and wait for your stamina to recover a little. We'll continue to move forward tomorrow morning. The 3 of them couldn't have hoped for more. Now they felt so hungry that their 4 hearts were sticking to their backs. Moreover, they didn't even dare to drink too much of the vine's juice, afraid that they would die of thirst after drinking it all. Jinji and the other 2 went to look for the roots of that plant. Yunchujiao looked around trying to find a new source of food. She was not afraid of any poison, but Jinji and the others were not. Therefore the range of food choices was very small. Yunchujiao wandered around looking for food. Perhaps because she was absent-minded, she stumbled and almost fell on the ground. This guy was so angry that he cursed while kicking the dried leaves on the ground. Suddenly he found a fist-sized cave under the dried leaves. This guy was delighted. A cave meant that there was an animal. No matter what it was, as long as it could fill his stomach, it was fine. Therefore this guy took the dagger and started digging. After digging for a long time, he finally reached the bottom of the cave. There was an animal skeleton and some rotten fruits in the cave. Yunchujiao saw that the skeleton was green, so she judged that the little thing either died from poisoning from eating the fruit, or it was bitten by something because it was stealing the fruit and that thing was poisonous. Yun Chujio called Shui Wuji and the others over and told them her guess. Although they were worried, they were still very excited. If they had the fruit, not only could they fill their stomachs but they could also quench their thirst. This would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The 4 of them were afraid of encountering demonic beasts, so they did not dare to split up. They began to search for wild fruits together. Finally, they found a small piece of wild fruit a few miles away. These wild fruits did not grow on trees. Instead, they were a small patch of shrubs. The fruits were embellished within and they were red and very tempting. Yi Bingyu was so excited that she was about to pounce over, but she was grabbed by Yun Chujio. She shook her head slightly, signaling everyone to be careful. Then she picked up a small rock on the ground and threw it over. There was a hissing sound coming from within the bushes. Then, everyone felt their scalps go numb when they realized that 3 snake heads had actually appeared from within. Yun Chujio waved her hand and everyone carefully retreated a distance away. That's a level 4 iron-skinned venomous snake. Its skin is extremely tough and extremely poisonous. When we had spiritual power, we could easily kill it with a flick of our little fingers. But now it's not so easy to deal with. There are 3 of them, Shui Wuji said with a frown. To be honest, Yun Chujio was not afraid of that bullshit snake venom at all. If she risked the price of being bitten a few times, she could totally catch the 3 poisonous snakes alone. However, she knew that someone must be secretly watching their test. If she did that, the fact that she was not afraid of the venom would be exposed. It was not worth it. She had to think of another way. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes. Do you want to eat snake meat? The 3 of them swallowed their saliva. Although they used to stay away from snake meat, their eyes were blue with hunger now. They did not care about it as long as it could fill their stomachs. Since you want to eat them, you should listen to me. Let's retreat a little further and weave the vines on our backs into a net. After the ambush is done, it'll be the bait to lure the snakes over. The 3 snakes have to guard the wild fruits, so most likely only one of them will chase after us. When the time comes, once the snakes enter the net, you guys will drag the snakes into the air. I'll take care of the rest, Yun Chujio said. Little Jio, will this method work? The iron-skinned viper already had a certain level of intelligence. Would it fall for it? Moreover, even if you can trap it in the net, how are you going to kill it? It's highly poisonous. What if the venom spits on your body? Yi Bingyu said with some worry. I have my own brilliant plan. Just do as I say. Yun Chujio said proudly. Shui Wuji and Jinji knew that Yun Chujio was not afraid of poison, so they were not too worried. According to Yun Chujio's instructions, the vines were woven into 3 nets and placed at a certain distance. Shui Wuji and the other 2 controlled 1 net each. This way, even if the iron-skinned viper avoided one of the nets, there were still 2 nets waiting behind. When everything was ready, Baited 9 went online. A little girl picking mushrooms carrying a big basket. Luring 9 hummed a song as he hopped towards the bushes. Ah, so many wild fruits. This is great. Luring 9 pretended to be very happy as he ran towards a bush. When the 3 iron-skinned vipers saw the delicious food, they immediately crawled towards Yun Chujio silently. When they were less than 10 feet away from Yun Chujio, Decoy 9 exclaimed, "Oh my, snakes. It's actually snakes. I'm scared to death." As Decoy 9 spoke, he began to run wildly. Naturally, the poisonous snakes would not let go of the delicious food in their mouths. One of the larger poisonous snakes stuck out its tongue and chased closely behind. Yun Chujio turned around and saw that only one was chasing after her. She instantly felt more confident. Even without the vine net, she was confident enough to deal with this iron-skinned viper with just her movement technique. However, in order to hide her weakness, she still used the vine net. Very soon she arrived at the first net where Yi Bingyu was. Yi Bingyu was probably too nervous and was slightly slower. She only caught the tail of the iron-skinned viper, but its tail was long and thin, therefore it was basically useless. Yi Bingjia's face was pale because the iron-skinned snake had given up on chasing Yun Chujio. Instead, it climbed towards the big tree where she was hiding. Seeing this, Yun Chujio could only pretend to stumble and fall on the ground. Ouch, my leg is most likely broken. I'm finished, I'm going to be eaten by the snake. The iron-skinned snake hesitated for a moment and changed its direction to climb towards Yun Chujio. Just as the iron-skinned snake was about to approach Yun Chujio, Yun Chujio suddenly jumped forward and ran at high speed. The iron-skinned snake was so angry that it spat out its tongue. Didn't it say that it would break its leg? Why was it running faster than a rabbit? The iron-skinned snake only had a little intelligence, so it did not know how to turn its head. In its anger, it forgot about Yi Bingyu and chased after Yun Chujio again. Soon the iron-skinned snake arrived at Xue Wuji's position. Xue Wuji was quick and exerted force with his hand. The iron-skinned snake was caught by the vine net and was suspended. Yun Chujio saw that the iron-skinned snake had been hit and quickly ran back. She first asked Yi Bingyu to rearrange the vine net. Then she looked at the iron-skinned snake that was biting the vine with its teeth. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Yun Chujio stared at the iron-skinned snake. She took out a bow from her back and shot an arrow at the snake's eye. The iron-skinned snake was trapped in the vine net and had no way to dodge. Yun Chujio shot accurately and her left eye was hit. The iron-skinned snake hissed in pain and spat venom from its mouth. However, after Yun Chujio finished shooting, she ran to a place where it could not reach. All its struggles were in vain. Yun Chujio ran to the other side and blinded the snake's right eye. Only then did she aim the dagger in her hand at the snake 7 inches. The reason why Yun Chujio blinded the snake's eyes was that she did not know if the dagger in her hand could pierce through the snake's hard skin. At the very least, it was safer to let it lose more than half of its combat strength. However, the result was a pleasant surprise to her. The dagger did not take much effort to pierce through the snake's 7 inches. The snake struggled a few times before it stopped moving. Yun Chujio did not dare to be careless. She used the javelin to poke a few more times. Seeing that the snake was indeed dead, she asked Xue Wuji to put down the vine net. Yun Chujio dragged the snake and hung it on a tree in the distance. Then she returned to the bushes and continued to trap it. After repeating it twice, the 3 iron-skinned venomous snakes were all killed. Yun Chujio arranged for Jin Ji and Yi Bingyu to collect wild fruits while she and Xue Wuji began to deal with the 3 iron-skinned venomous snakes. The iron-skinned venomous snakes were not small in size. If the 4 of them ate sparingly, it would be enough to last them for 3 to 4 days. Yun Chujio twisted the snake's skin into a rope and then wove it into a net. It was much more useful than the vines. Yun Chujio carefully dipped a portion of the arrows into the snake venom. This way, if they encountered a demon beast that was difficult to deal with, they would have the upper hand. Finally, she divided the snake meat into a few parts. One part was for immediate consumption, and the other part could be stored for another 2 days after it was slightly dried. Everyone was busy for a long time before they started roasting the snake meat. Everyone felt very satisfied. There was both snake meat and fruit. They would not have to worry about food and drink for at least 3 to 4 days. There were still many people watching in the square of the primordial chaos sect. Seeing that many people were hungry and thirsty in the demonic beast forest, they could not help but gloat. They did not know which elder came up with the question this time. It was really too bad. It was even worse than the previous tests they had participated in. These candidates were really unlucky. Look at them. They can only eat leaves. It's really tragic. It's already pretty good that they could find edible leaves. Didn't you see that many people died because they ate poisonous grass? And those people were frozen like grandchildren at night. It's really pitiful. Someone slapped his thigh. Alright, let's take a look at Yun Chujio's situation. Isn't she greedy? Isn't she able to earn money? No matter how rich she is, she won't be able to use it now. She must be in a very sorry state. She might have already been eaten by a demonic beast. The crowd jeered one after another, requesting for Yun Chujio's image to be shown. This was because there were too many candidates, so the shadow stone only showed a few people's images in turn. When Elder Ling Hu heard the crowds jeering, he was also a little curious. He did not know if that little girl had already been eliminated. Thus he asked his disciple to bring up Yun Chujio's image. Very soon, the figures of Yun Chujio and the other 3 appeared on the shadow stone number 9. There was a bonfire on the ground. Some people were eating barbecued meat while others were eating wild fruits. As for Yun Chujio, she had built a hammock between 2 trees and was lying on it, humming a tune. This was impossible. Weren't the other contestants all in a sorry state? How could they be so carefree? There was even barbecued meat to eat. Wild fruits. Even hammocks. Where did they get it? Could it be that a blind cat met a dead rat and picked up the corpse of a demon beast? Yes, it must be so. The shadow stone that was supposed to be played in turn froze on Yunchujio and the other three under the strong request of the crowd. Almost everyone's attention was focused on the shadow stone number 9. It's only been 2 days, there are still 8 days left. They won't be so lucky all the time, just wait and see. Exactly, that little girl actually built a hammock. He's really a demon. Just wait and see, in the end they will either starve to death or die of thirst. Of course, it's more likely that they will be bitten to death by the demon beast. Right, well, just watch from here. Who knows, they might be bitten to death by demon beasts tomorrow. Elder Ling Hu stood at the side and frowned. Had this little girl offended these people? Why did they wish for this little girl to be eliminated? Elder Ling Hu thought about it and understood a little in his heart. These people probably saw that although the little girl's spirit energy was low, she had earned a lot of money, so the red-eyed illness had struck. Elder Ling Hu shook his head slightly. She was really narrow-minded. However, this little girl's good luck was probably about to run out. Could she live past 10 days? Yun Chujio did not know that she had once again become the focus of attention. Of course, even if she knew, this fellow would not take it to heart. Another 2 days passed and it was the 5th day of the second round of the test. At this time, half of the participants in the test had already been eliminated. A small portion died from thirst and starvation, while a large portion died from the attacks of demonic beasts. Yun Chujio took stock of their remaining items. They should still have enough to eat for a day. It seemed that they needed to find more food as soon as possible. The further east they went, the more luxuriant the vegetation on the ground was. However, there were very few edible species. Although there was a type of slender wild grass that was non-toxic, they were not rabbits. They really could not digest this type of wild grass that had too high a fiber content. Just as Yun Chujio was frowning, she felt the ground tremble slightly. Yun Chujio waved her hand and everyone quickly climbed up the big tree beside her. Through the gaps of the leaves, they carefully looked outside. Not long after, 2 level 5 wind-blade short-tailed wolves walked over. A gloating voice sounded in the square of the mixed origin sect. Ha! They are really unlucky. Not to mention too, they can't even handle one. That's right, the only reason they managed to survive for 5 days is because they were lucky. It won't be long before they die. Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. That lass actually planned to use a wooden bow to shoot the 2 wind-edged short-tailed wolves. What a fool. If an arrow made of wood could kill a wind-edged short-tailed wolf, it would be a legend. Elder Ling Hu shook his head slightly. If it was a normal beast, using a wooden arrow might be useful, but to a level 4 short-tailed wolf, a wooden arrow could not hurt them at all. Just as Elder Ling Hu was thinking, he saw Yun Chujio shoot the wooden arrow in her hand, hitting the left eye of one of the wolves. However, it only pierced the left eye of the short-tailed wolf a little and did not shoot it in. This time, the wind-blade short-tailed wolf was completely enraged and fired a few wind blades at the big tree where Yun Chujio was hiding. Everyone gloated over Yun Chujio's misfortune and thought that the little girl was dead for sure. Soon, their gloating expressions turned into disbelief. That was because Yun Chujio easily used a rope to swing herself onto another tree, dodging the wind blade attack of the wind blade short-tailed wolf. What was even more unbelievable was that the wind blade short-tailed wolf actually fell to the ground, bleeding from all 7 orifices. At the same time, the other wind blade short-tailed wolf was shot in the eye by Shui Wuji. It also bled from all 7 orifices and died. No, impossible. How could the wooden arrow be so powerful? It's just a small cut on the eye. How could it bleed from all 7 orifices? Yeah, this is also unbelievable. How is this possible? Could it be that the 2 wind-blade short-tailed wolves were poisoned before and happened to have an attack? Some people were quick-witted and immediately understood what had happened. Ah, I know, didn't they eat roasted snake meat before? I think they put the snake venom on the arrowhead, so the 2 wind-blade short-tailed wolves were poisoned to death. Everyone finally came to their senses. Although they didn't want to admit it, they had to admit that this move was too wonderful. If that was the case, unless they encountered a particularly high-level demonic beast, they would be safe and sound. Yun Chujio and the others jumped down from the tree. When they saw the corpses of the 2 wind-blade short-tailed wolves, they could not help but feel pity. The wolf meat contained a lethal poison, so they could only throw it away. What a waste. The four of them continued to walk forward while drooling. Yun Chujio muttered, "The next time we encounter a demonic beast, we should still use a vine net to clean it up. Although this is risky, it can fill my stomach. I'm so hungry that my heart is sticking to my back." While Yun Chujio was talking, she found a small plant with long and thin leaves in front of her. She immediately said happily, "There's food. Hurry up and dig." When Jinji and the other two saw the plant that Yun Chujio was pointing at, they immediately became discouraged. "Little Jio, are you hungry? That's devil yam. After eating it, your tongue and throat will be swollen and painful." Jinji glared at Yun Chujio and said. Yun Chujio said with a smile, "Of course it's poisonous to eat them directly. I have a way to deal with these things. Listen to me and dig some quickly. When I find a water source, I will have a way to deal with these devil yam." Jinji and the other two were skeptical. They could only follow Yun Chujio's instructions and dig out the fat roots of the plants from the ground. Then they put them into the basket on their backs. The people from the Primordial Chaos sect were already a little dispirited from the blow. However, when they saw Yun Chujio and the others digging out those devil yam, they were instantly energized. "Ha! This Yun Chujio is really obsessed. She actually prepared to eat those devil yam. She's simply courting death. That's right. I didn't expect that they would still be poisoned to death after a long time. What a waste of effort. That's not right. They only dug it out and put it in the basket instead of eating it. Could it be that they were just digging for fun? Forget it. They must not be hungry now. They will eat it when they are hungry. Let's wait for a good show." In the evening, Yun Chujio and the others finally found a small stream. Although the stream was very small, it was enough to make the four of them ecstatic. After Yun Chujio found that it was not poisonous, Jinji and the other two drank to their heart's content. After the four of them drank to their heart's content, Yun Chujio said, "This is a water source. It will definitely attract demonic beasts. So let's get some water away from here." The three of them nodded. However, they did not have pots or buckets. How could they get the water away? Yun Chujio bared her little white teeth. "Isn't this simple? Let's just get the materials on the spot." Yun Chujio took a dagger and cut a thick piece of wood. She hollowed out the wood in the middle and then made 2 holes on both sides. After tying the vines, a wooden bucket was completed. Shui Wuji and the other two were stunned. This little Jio was simply omnipotent. A person like her could not be called a genius. She could only be described as a monster. Yun Chujio made a few wooden buckets and asked Jinji and the others to fetch water. She also made a big wooden pot. Although it might be burned through by the fire, she did not expect it to be durable. It would be fine as long as it could be used once. Therefore, Jinji and the others carried the buckets while a certain Jio carried the big wooden pot. The four of them happily found an empty space to rest. Yun Chujio lit a big bonfire and then laid on the hammock, humming a tune leisurely. "Little Jio, didn't you say that you could handle the devil yam with water? Why didn't you do it?" Yibingyu said, clutching her stomach. She was really hungry. "No hurry, no hurry. You guys peel off the skin of the devil yam first and then mash it into mud. I need it later." Yun Chujio threw the dagger to Yibingyu and said with a smile. Yibingyu and the other two had no choice but to accept their fate and start working. They first peeled the skin off the devil yam, cut it into small pieces and mashed it into mud in the wooden barrel. Although the three knew that this thing was poisonous, they still swallowed their saliva when they saw the mashed yam in the wooden barrel. They were really hungry. Seeing that they had finished, Yun Chujio instructed Shui Wuji to dig an earthen stove and set the big wooden pot on it. Only then did this guy jump off the hammock and move the bonfire into the earthen stove. Yun Chujio put the ashes into a wooden barrel and kept stirring it with water before stopping. Jinji and the other two looked at Yun Chujio in confusion. What was she trying to do? Yun Chujio poured the relatively clear ashes water into the big wooden pot that was already boiling. Then she put devil's yam into the big pot piece by piece with a wooden spatula. Shui Wuji and the other two widened their eyes. They saw that the originally soft mashed yam had actually turned into a meat jelly. It looked very elastic. Yun Chujio pressed it with the wooden shovel. She felt that it was almost done. Then she put the cooked yam jelly into the bucket filled with cold water to let it cool down. Shui Wuji and the other two surrounded the bucket filled with yam jelly and drooled. Was this thing really made from devil yam? Was it not poisonous after this? Little Jiu, can this thing really be eaten? Yibingyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva and asked. Of course, not only can it be eaten, but it can also be kept in water for a long time. Even if we can't find any other food, we can still rely on these yam jelly to last until the end of the test, Yun Chujio said proudly. The poison of this devil yam was not very strong. It was enough to be detoxified by using gray water. After about an hour, Yun Chujio picked up a piece of frozen yam and took a bite. Although it was tasteless, it could at least fill her stomach. She could make do with it. When Xue Wuji and the other two saw Yun Chujio winking at them, they could not wait to pick up a piece and eat it. The texture was smooth and the taste was really good. The people from the Chaos Origins sect watched the whole process with their mouths agape. Although they were surprised that the devil yam had turned into something like a meat jelly, was this thing really not poisonous? Could it really be eaten? Until the next morning, when they saw that Du Yun Chujio and the others were still alive and kicking, they had no choice but to believe that the so-called yam jelly was really not poisonous. When the people of the Primordial Chaos sect saw that Yun Chujio and the others' wooden buckets were filled with sweet potato jelly, their hearts turned cold. With so much food and poisonous arrows, they would definitely be able to last until the end of the test. Yun Chujio and the other three had food and drinks, so they did not continue to walk towards the east. Yun Chujio was extremely bored. She even used a piece of wood to carve a large die. The four of them were having a great time. When the people from the Primordial Chaos sect saw this, they were so angry that their noses were almost crooked. The other examinees were in deep trouble, but these four people actually had the time to play with the dice. It was really infuriating. On the 8th day of the test, Elder Ling Hu had some urgent matters to attend to. He gave Bian Chen a few instructions and left in a hurry. Bian Chen's eyes flickered a few times. He gave a signal to a disciple who was controlling the formation. That disciple understood and began to make small movements with his hands. Very quickly, someone cried out in surprise, "Oh my God! Why is there a level 8 demonic beast inside? This time Yun Chujio and the others are really going to die." Everyone gathered around and saw a level 8 iron-backed wild bear swaying its huge body as it walked towards the place where Yun Chujio and the others were resting. Everyone was very puzzled. It was said that this testing area was releasing demonic beasts below level 5. How did Yun Chujio and the others meet a level 8 demonic beast? It was really strange. However, even though it was strange, everyone was gloating. Wasn't Yun Chujio smart? Wasn't she able to make money? Let's see how she can show off this time. Yun Chujio and the other three also noticed the shaking of the ground. Yun Chujio asked Xue Wuji and the other two to set up a vine net while she placed the sweet potato jelly in the basket on their backs. After the four of them finished setting up the net, they climbed up the tree next to them. When the four of them saw the huge object approaching them, their hearts turned cold. How could the vine net trap such a huge object? Although the net that Yun Chujio made with the snake skin was a little stronger than the vine net, it could not withstand the claws and teeth of the ironback bear. Yun Chujio picked up a poisonous arrow and shot it at the ironback bear's left eye. She did not expect the ironback bear to be so intelligent that it actually used its claws to send the poisonous arrow flying. The iron-backed wild bear roared angrily and broke the big tree that Yun Chujio was hiding in with one of its claws. Fortunately, Yun Chujio used the vines to swing onto another tree. Otherwise, she would be in trouble. Xue Wuji saw the iron-backed wild bear attacking Yun Chujio and shot another arrow at its eye. The iron-backed wild bear still used its claws to send the poisonous arrow flying lightly, turned around and crashed into the big tree that Xue Wuji was hiding in. In a short while, more than 10 trees were broken by the ironback bear and fell to the ground. Yun Chujio and the other three relied on the vines to move around the tree. They were not injured, but they were exhausted. The ironback bear was panting heavily. It was obviously exhausted. However, it could not climb the tree, so it could only watch the four people on the tree. The people of the Primordial Chaos sect were amazed. These four people were smart. If they had stayed on the tree, the ironback bear would probably have returned empty-handed. After all, it did not know how to climb trees. Bian Chen took a deep breath and looked at the disciple again. The disciple gritted his teeth and tightened his hands. The people of the Primordial Chaos sect cried out in surprise. What's going on? Are the demon beasts revolting? In the area where Yun Chujio and the others were, Dozens of demon beasts surrounded them from all directions, trapping Yun Chujio and the others in the middle. When Yun Chujio saw the scene in front of her, she only wanted to say 2 words. Fuck. What did it mean that there was no path to heaven and no door to earth? Yun Chujio and the others were doing it now. The surrounding trees had already been occupied by demon beasts that could climb trees. A few demon beasts were rubbing their fists and preparing to break the trees that Yun Chujio and the others were resting on. Even some people from the Chaos Origin sect couldn't bear to watch. Emma, the fate of these 4 people must be very miserable. How could there be so many demon beasts? It was really strange. Everyone thought that there was only one ending for Yun Chujio and the other 3, and that was death. Even Xue Wuji and the other 2 felt that they were doomed this time. If they had spiritual power, they could still struggle a little. But now they were just a little more agile. How could they be a match for these demonic beasts? Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. She shouted loudly, "Hey, stop. We can't escape anyway. Why are you all in such a hurry? There are only 4 of us. You guys should study it and decide how to divide it. If we study it well, the 4 of us won't resist anymore. We'll just go down and throw our lives away." The demonic beasts that surrounded them were all above level 6. They already had a certain level of intelligence. When they heard Yun Chujio's words, they looked at each other. That's right, there were dozens of them. Who would these 4 humans belong to? Yun Chujio pointed at the ironback wild bear at the beginning and said, "I think Lord Bear was the first to discover us, so it should be a great contributor. Why don't we let it choose 3 more demonic beasts to eat us?" When the ironback wild bear heard Yun Chujio's words, it proudly cried out a few times. Its heavy body took a few steps before it used its bare paw to point at the 3 demonic beasts. The ironback savage bear was naturally pointing at the demonic beasts that were on good terms with it. The other demonic beasts would not be willing to do so and immediately began to howl. Seeing that some of the demonic beasts actually dared to question its decision, the ironback savage bear could not hold back its violent temper and immediately slapped one of the demonic beasts. The demonic beast was naturally not willing to be outdone, and the 2 of them started to fight. The 3 demonic beasts that the ironback savage bear chose naturally couldn't sit idly by, so they also joined the battle. That demonic beast also had demonic beasts that they were on good terms with, and all of them started to help. Thus very quickly the demonic beasts became a mess. In an instant it was a mess. The thick and sturdy trees were knocked down, and the withered branches and leaves on the ground were fluttering in the air. All kinds of beast roars could be heard endlessly. A few demonic beasts wanted to take advantage of the situation and eat Yun Chujio and the other 3 people on the tree. How could Yun Chujio let them have their way? After a few words, it immediately attracted the other demonic beasts to take care of the few demonic beasts who wanted to take advantage of them. After a few hours, the demonic beasts ran and were injured. Finally, 4 demonic beasts obtained the final victory. Then they found that the spoils of war were gone. There were only a few clothes hanging on the tree, and the humans had long disappeared. Roar roar, roar roar. The demon beasts were so angry that they almost vomited blood. They had been fooled. They wanted to chase after them, but they were now a pile of loose sand. Moreover, after the intense fight just now, they were already so tired that they did not have the energy to chase after the 4 shameless humans. The people of the primordial chaos sect were already dumbfounded. Even in their dreams, they had never thought that Yun Chujio and the other 3 would escape death just like that. What was this called? Sowing discord? Escaping? It had to be said that Yun Chujio was really too smart. She actually managed to escape from such a desperate situation by relying on the rattling sound. It was truly unbelievable. Bian Chen's expression was gloomy. Just as he was about to ask that disciple to do something more, Elder Ling Hu returned. He could only give up. Before everyone could report to Elder Ling Hu, Bian Chen pointed at the disciple with a stern expression and said, "Zhucheng, what's wrong with you? Why did you tamper with the array formation?" "Master, this disciple is guilty. When I found out that Zhucheng had tampered with it, it was already too late, so I couldn't stop him in time. Please forgive me." The disciple who had been reprimanded by Bian Chen said with a red face and thick neck, "Elder Ling Hu, I have nothing to say. In any case, I just don't like that Yun Chujio. If someone with such a low level of spiritual power can be admitted into the primordial chaos sect, It would be a disgrace to our sect. Elderling who was not stupid. He did not think that Bianchen had said that he could not stop him in time, but he had always valued this disciple. Thus, after a moment of silence he said, "Men, send Zhu Qing to the Hall of Guardians and let them deal with him according to the sect's rules. As for Bianchen, go and meditate for 3 months. Go." Zhu Qing indignantly defended himself a few times before he was taken away. Bianchen, on the other hand, bowed obediently before he went to meditate to receive his punishment. Elderling who took a deep breath and sent away all the disciples who were controlling the array formation. He also changed a batch and called his second disciple Xin Yuan over to help. After Elder Linghu was done with his work, he turned his gaze to the shadow stone number 9. His impression of Yun Chujio was rather complicated. On one hand he felt a little guilty. Because of his negligence, the 4 of them had suffered even more tests. On the other hand he felt a little unhappy. He felt that if it weren't for the 4 of them he wouldn't have lost face in front of everyone. However, all sorts of complicated emotions turned into confusion when they saw the scene on the shadow stone. As Zhu Qing had secretly tampered with the array formation, many of the originally scattered people had gathered in one place. After Yun Chujio and the other 3 had escaped for some distance, they encountered many participants. The vast majority of the participants were weak and some were even covered in injuries. It was obvious that they had suffered a lot. When those people saw Yun Chujio and the other 3 in high spirits and the baskets on their backs, they immediately revealed greedy expressions. Yun Chujio sneered and directly stabbed one of the candidates who wanted to attack them with a poisonous arrow. When the crowd saw the person who was bleeding from his 7 orifices, they immediately became as obedient as quails. They all looked at Yun Chujio and the other 3 while trembling. Yun Chujio held a piece of yam jelly in her hand and asked with a smile, "Do you guys want to eat it?" Blue light shone in everyone's eyes as they nodded their heads desperately. Yun Chujio once again earned a small sum of money and was in a good mood. This fellow was very shrewd. In order to prevent these people from taking the risk to gang up on her, after selling a basket of yam jelly, she took Shui Wuji and the other 2 and ran away. After walking for a distance she gathered some people and sold another basket. Then they ran away again. "Little Jiu, that's enough. We can eat the rest by ourselves," Yibingyu said while panting. Probably only a profiteer would run away after selling everything. He was so tired. "You're right. I've earned enough. I'm not selling anymore. When we get out I'll give you 3 dividends. I never eat alone," Yun Chujio said with a smile. Shui Wuji and the other 2 rejected her. Seeing that Yun Chujio sincerely wanted to give them, they gave up. Finally, the second round of the test that lasted for 10 days ended. The participants who passed were teleported to the square. Most of the participants were in a sorry state. The first thing they needed to do to recover their spiritual power was to eat. The square was filled with the sound of chewing as if they were having a picnic. Of course there were exceptions. A certain Jiu walked up to a man who was wolfing down his food and stretched out her small hand. "This young master, 200,000 spirit stones." The man raised his head and saw that it was Yun Chujio. He could only pay 200,000 spirit stones and then muttered, "Profiteer." Yun Chujio pursed her lips. What was wrong with profiteer? Did she rob him or force him with a dagger? Just like that she would have to get on her pirate ship obediently next time. If she didn't believe it she would just wait and see. Yun Chujio was extremely happy collecting the money. This fellow felt that the primordial chaos sect was simply too much to her liking. She had only participated in 2 rounds of tests, and she had already earned a huge sum of money. What a good immortal essence sect. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, she felt a white light flash before her eyes. Fuck. Is there any justice in this world? She still had 5 people's money that she hadn't taken from her. If they were eliminated, where would she get the money? When she regained her sight, Yun Chujio realized that there was no one else beside her. Could it be that she had teleported alone this time? The familiar voice of the person in charge of the test suddenly sounded. "Congratulations on entering the 3rd round of the test. This round of the test is very interesting." Yun Chujio could not help but curse inwardly when she heard this. Interesting. It was probably even more damaging. She did not know what kind of tricks would appear in the 3rd round of the test. That person continued, The third round of the test tests your actual combat ability. As long as you kill 5 demonic beasts, you will pass the test. Don't worry, even if you die, you will be resurrected on the spot. The top 5,000 who use the shortest time will pass the test. Yun Chujio frowned. It was that simple? It shouldn't be. According to the usual style of the Primordial Chaos sect, there must be some twists and turns. Yun Chujio quickly knew what the problem was. 5 demon beasts actually came out together. Moreover, it was 5 level 40 golden spotted hurricane leopards. The Primordial Chaos sect was too fucking abnormal. Not to mention those with low spiritual power, even if they were at the 7th level of the spiritual void tier. Could they fight against 5 of them alone? Yun Chujio thought about it again. She might have misunderstood the tester's meaning. It should be like this. If the tester killed a golden spot hurricane leopard and died, when he resurrected, there would only be 4 demonic beasts left. In this case, it was not just about the actual combat experience but also the willpower of the person. Yun Chujio was quite confident in herself. However, she was not too confident in Jinji and the others, so this guy was prepared to finish the battle quickly and then think of a way to help. This guy didn't even think about it. Everyone was teleported alone. How was she going to help? Well, this guy had this kind of mysterious confidence. Yun Chujio was stroking her chin as her thoughts ran wild. The 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards were a little confused. This little girl seemed to be sick, right? Most people would either be afraid of them or fight them. Why was she in a daze? Or, is this really okay? Can't you pay attention to your opponent? Yun Chujio heard the roars of the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards and finally came back to her senses. She looked at them lazily, then she asked, "Hey, do you know how to go to other areas? Take me to my friend." 10,000 divine beasts whizzed past the hearts of the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards. They never dreamed that this little girl would ask them such a request. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "I know. You are array beasts created by the array formation, so you are a little dumber than normal demonic beasts, so it's normal that you don't know where the border is. Forget it, I shouldn't have imagined you guys to be so powerful. It's really disappointing." The 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards looked at each other and snorted disdainfully. "Hey, are you still not convinced? Then tell me where the border is and how to go to other areas." "Hey, are you bragging?" Yun Chujio crossed her arms and said disdainfully. One of the golden-spotted hurricane leopards ran away while the other 4 chased Yun Chujio, indicating to follow the golden-spotted hurricane leopard in front. Yun Chujio said that she didn't believe it, but in her heart she was overjoyed. That's right, demonic beasts were cuter than humans. Even the formation beasts that were formed were cuter than humans. Yun Chujio was chased away by the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards for 15 minutes, and she found a big tree full of yellow flowers. The leader of the golden-spotted hurricane leopards used his tail to pat the big tree, and the yellow flowers on it drifted down, looking quite beautiful. Yun Chujio understood that this tree was probably the eye of the formation between the various regions. Yun Chujio nodded. "It seems that you guys are indeed very smart. Now I'll give you 2 choices. One is to voluntarily establish a temporary contract with me, and the other is to be forced to establish a temporary contract with me. Which do you guys choose?" The 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards cried out. They felt that the little girl in front of them had lost her mind. How could they establish a temporary contract with such a weak little girl? It was simply impossible. Yun Chujio smiled at them and took out a thick stack of ice-condensing talismans with her left hand. She took out a thick stack of explosive talismans with her right hand. "Tell me, I would rather die a few times. Can I kill you with these things? Besides, don't you want to wander around other areas? Don't you want to leave more marks in your short lives?" Yun Chujio took out some roasted meat and threw it to the 5 of them. "As long as you are obedient, I promise to make your short lives colorful. Do you want to be blown to pieces or do you want to play with me?" The 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards made a choice easily. Only a fool would play a game of killing with this little girl. They wanted to wander around and see the world. After Yun Chujio established a temporary contract with the 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards, she kept the 5 into her spirit beast bag. The 5 golden-spotted hurricane leopards were so angry that they wanted to bang their heads against the wall. Where were they when they agreed to go for a stroll? Where were they when they agreed to see the world? Liar. Big liar. Yun Chujio took out a sudden rupture talisman and blew the big tree into pieces. The scene in front of her changed. She saw a candidate fighting with 5 level 40 horned bulls. While the candidate was distracted, he was bitten by a horned bull and died. Before the candidate died, he glared at Yun Chujio with hatred. Yun Chujio touched her nose. This matter did not seem to have anything to do with her, right? It was his own fault for not paying attention. The 5 sharp-horned bulls looked at Yun Chujio in confusion. Just as they were hesitating on what to do, they heard Yun Chujio say, "5 oxlords, you guys do what you need to do. I'm just a passerby. Let's not meddle in each other's business. See you later." The 5 pointy-horned bulls thought for a moment. Their mission was to kill this unlucky fellow. As for this little girl, she really had nothing to do with them. Therefore they ignored Yun Chujio and only stared at the quarry on the ground. Seeing this, Yun Chujio quickly ran away. Yun Chujio quickly found a big tree full of pale pink flowers. She took out a sudden rupture talisman and blew it up. Then she was teleported to another area. As the scene was played in turn, no one in the Primordial Chaos sect saw Yun Chujio's actions at first. It was only when someone was watching a contestant fight that they suddenly saw a certain Geo swaggering into the scene. That person looked as if he had seen a ghost. Why did she come in? The crowd did not understand and thought that the person who spoke had gone crazy. After laughing for a while, that person argued, "I saw Yun Chujio in this area just now." The crowd was amused and laughed out loud. "Are you stupid? Yun Chujio was killing demonic beasts in her own area. How could she come to this candidate's area? This is simply impossible." After hearing what the crowd said, the person was also a little confused. Could it be that his eyes were playing tricks on him? That's right. These areas were all independent. How could Yun Chujio come in? He must have seen wrongly. As the shadow stone only played the images of the contestants and demonic beasts, the images that Yun Chujio flashed across were very few. So, after a long while, another person happened to see Yun Chujio flashing across the screen. He immediately exclaimed, "Oh my god! Why is Yun Chujio in this 800 area? What's going on?" After everyone heard that, they naturally laughed at that person, thinking that his eyes were playing tricks on him. However, one after another, people noticed Yun Chujio's figure flash past, and some even stopped for a short while, saying something to those demonic beasts before disappearing. If 1 or 2 people said that they might have hallucinated, but more than 10 people said that they saw Yun Chujio's figure, then this matter was a little strange. Thus, someone went to Elder Yuan, who was in charge of the 3rd round of testing, and explained the situation. Although Elder Yuan was old, he had a fiery temper. After hearing everyone's words, he scolded everyone. "You still have the face to say that you are disciples of the Primordial Chaos sect? Don't you know that these test areas are separated by arrays? How could that Jew appear in other test areas? And there are several test areas. Did you see a ghost, or was your head kicked by a demon beast?" While Elder Yuan was cursing, his eyes accidentally swept across a shadow stone and he didn't say anything. Because on that shadow stone, other than a candidate, there was also a little girl who was grinning and talking about something. Damn, it is a ghost. Elder Yuan rubbed his eyes and pinched himself again. Then he realized that the little girl had disappeared. Yes, it must be an illusion. A moment later, he found Yun Chujio's figure on a shadow stone. He finally couldn't deceive himself and think that this was an illusion. What was going on? Why did she jump into someone else's area? However, the shadow stone could only see the parts of the tester and the demon beast. It could not see the rest. Elder Yuan jumped anxiously, and in the end she simply disappeared without a trace. The people in the square were very puzzled. Where did Elder Yuan go? Could it be an internal emergency? A moment later, Elder Yuan flew back. Only then did everyone realize that Yun Chujio's figure appeared on the number 9 shadow stone. This time not only could they see the image, but they could also hear the voice inside. At this time, Yun Chujio had already strolled through nearly 100 regions. Unfortunately, she did not meet Shui Wuji and the others. Fortunately, there were many talismans in this storage ring, so she was not afraid that she would not be able to blow up the formation core. Yun Chujio strolled to area 960. When she saw the person fighting with the demonic beasts inside, she couldn't help but be happy. That person was the man who had previously scolded Yunchujio for being a profiteer. When that man saw Yunchujio, he felt as if he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Why would she appear in his area? Yunchujio waved her claws at him. Hey, we meet again. Do you need help? I only need 100,000 spiritual stones and I can help you. 100,000 spiritual stones can't be bought at a loss, and 100,000 spiritual stones can't be bought at a loss. Don't miss it when you pass by. The man had been attacked by 5 level 40 storm wolves and he couldn't fight back at all. Seeing Yunchujio say that, he was naturally eager to help. He quickly said, use it. Use it, hurry up. Swear it. That person quickly swore a poison oath and said, Yunchujio, I've sworn a poison oath. Quickly come over and help. Yunchujio bared her little white teeth. I'm sorry. Didn't you say that I'm a profiteer? How can a profiteer keep their word? I'm leaving, you can play by yourself. After Yunchujio said that, she hopped away. That person choked on her anger and immediately fainted. The corner of the eyes of the people from the primordial chaos sect twitched violently. This little girl was really mean. If you didn't want to help, you shouldn't have said it in the beginning. In the end, she agreed, but she didn't do this deal anymore. How wicked. Elder Yuan wasn't concerned about whether she was wicked or not. He was concerned about how that little girl ran into someone else's territory. What was her purpose for doing this? Normally, shouldn't she hurry up and kill the demon beast to pass the test? After a quarter of an hour, Elder Yuan watched helplessly as Yunchujio took out a talisman and blew up a tree with water-pink flowers. Then her figure reappeared in another area. Elder Yuan frowned. How did the little girl know that the tree was the eye of the array? Could it be that she knew about array formations? On the shadow stone, that little girl happily began to shuttle between various regions. When the contestants saw her, it was as if they had seen a ghost. Finally, when Yunchujio entered another region, she found Yi Bingyu. Yi Bingyu was miserable. Her spiritual power was low, so how could she be a match for 5 level 40 horned bulls? She had died several times, but she still couldn't kill a single horned bull. When Yi Bingyu saw Yunchujio, who suddenly appeared, she thought she was hallucinating. In a moment of shock, she was bitten to death by a horned bull again. Yunchujio touched her nose. Anyway, it seemed that she had died several times, so this time shouldn't be too bad, right? Yes, it must be so. When Yi Bingyu came back to life, she heard Yunchujio say with a smile, Sister Bingyu, I'm here to help you. Little Jio, you came at the right time. Quick, help me. Yi Bingyu didn't have time to ask Yunchujio why she was here, because she felt that if she delayed any longer, she would probably die again. Although the 5-horned wild bulls were surprised that another little girl had appeared, they did not put her in their eyes at all. She was just a little weakling. Yunchujio bared her little white teeth and waved her hand. Several ice-condensing talismans were thrown at the 5-horned wild bulls. At the same time, whoosh whoosh whoosh, 5 golden spotted hurricane leopards appeared on the ground. Kittens, the rest is up to you. Yunchujio pulled Yi Bingyu to the side and the two of them watched the show. The 5 golden spotted hurricane leopards could no longer hold back their fighting passion, especially when the 5 silly cows were hit by the freezing talisman. Their movements were slow, and the wind blades of the 5 golden spotted hurricane leopards slashed at the 5-horned bulls like a storm. The freezing talisman only worked for a few seconds, and the 5-horned bulls quickly recovered their fighting strength. They were very confused. Didn't they say that the target was that human? Why were there 5 golden spotted hurricane leopards? However, the horned bulls and golden spotted hurricane leopards were both level 40 demonic beasts, so they were not at a disadvantage. However, there was a bad luck bag next to them, so the 5-horned bulls were miserable. Just as they were about to counterattack, the ice talisman arrived. Thus, the 5-horned bulls could only slow down and be attacked by the golden spotted hurricane leopards. It was not easy for them to run out of ice talisman attacks, and yet another purple spiritual needle came over to cause trouble. Moreover, it was specially drilled into the nostrils of the horned bulls. It was simply too damaging. Yi Bingyu was not idle either. She had been bitten to death by the 5-horned bulls several times just now. She was holding back her anger, so she also joined the battle. In less than an hour, the 5-horned bulls were tragically dead. Just as Yi Bingyu was about to hug Yun Chujio and celebrate enthusiastically, a white light flashed and she was teleported out. Yi Bingjia's mind was still in a daze until now. Did she really complete the test? Did little Ju really come to help her? Why did it feel like a dream the more she thought about it? How did little Ju find her? Moreover, why didn't her 5 demonic beasts attack little Jiu, but instead listen to her arrangements? Yi Bingyu was transported to the plaza with a confused look on her face. This plaza was specially reserved for successful candidates, so there weren't any shadow stones or melon-eating disciples, only some on-duty disciples. Those on-duty disciples estimated that it would take at least 10 to 10 hours for someone to successfully pass the test, so they were chatting in groups of 3 or 5. Yi Bingyu was shocked when she saw the sudden appearance, and then she was even more dumbfounded when she saw her spiritual power level. How was this possible? Could it be that there was a problem with the test array? However, they were only the disciples on duty and didn't have the right to ask anything, so they just looked at Yi Bingyu in surprise. Yi Bingyu looked around in confusion. Did she get first place in the 3rd round of the test just like that? Damn, if I knew this would happen, I would have let little Ju leave a horned bull for me to kill for fun. A certain Jiu who was left inside the array estimated the time. From the area she passed by, it would take at least 10 to 10 hours to kill all 5 demonic beasts, therefore she still had a lot of time to find Shui Wuji and Jinji. Therefore a certain Jiu continued to hop around in various areas. The people of the Primordial Chaos sect stared at the number 9 shadow stone with their mouths agape. This Yun Chuju was too much. Other people who came to participate in the test would just obediently participate in the test. Yet not only did she earn so many spirit stones, she was even jumping around inside the array formation. She was really too arrogant. Many people were filled with righteous indignation as they stared fixedly at the figure who was jumping around. All of them were gnashing their teeth as if they were looking at their enemies. However, there were also some people who felt that they had vented their anger. When they first entered the sect, they had been tormented by this wicked test. Now Yun Chujia's actions were simply a slap to the face of the person who had created the test. Wasn't this too great? Elder Yuan stared at the number 9 shadow stone with a dumbfounded expression. So that little girl was shuttling between various regions to help her companion pass the test? Elder Yuan was slightly touched. He had not seen such a pure heart for many years. Based on this point, Elder Yuan had a good impression of Yun Chujio. It was inevitable for young people to be a little mischievous. Moreover, this could only mean that the old thing who designed the array formation was really too stupid. You made the eye of the array formation into a blossoming tree. It was too eye-catching. No wonder the little girl had found a flaw. Inside the formation, Yun Chujio had traversed more than 100 regions. This fellow was a little tired. She felt that if this continued, if her luck wasn't good, she might not be able to find Jinji and Shui Wuji until the end of the test. How could she quickly find Jinji and Shui Wuji? After thinking about it, she really didn't have any good ideas. After all, the formation's eye was a random teleportation. Even if she knew where Shui Wuji and Jinji were, she wouldn't be able to reach them directly. However, they could still think of ways to save some energy. Hence, the people from the Chaos Origin sect were dumbfounded as they watched a certain Jiu who was on foot turn into a young girl riding a leopard. She continued to pass through the various regions in a hurry. The regions that she passed by were like dogs that were crying. Why did they have to fight miserably with the demonic beasts while Yun Chuji was able to ride a leopard around? However, this guy was not idle. He would tease her from time to time, "Hey, you have to work harder. In the area I passed by before, they have already killed a demonic beast. If you don't work hard, you will be eliminated. Hey, that little guy, watch your back. It's too late. I'm sorry I let you die again." "What? You want me to help?" "I'm sorry, the profiteer is busy right now. I don't have time." The disciples of the Primordial Chaos sect were speechless. When they heard that a weirdo had appeared in the 3rd round of the test, many elders rushed over to watch the show. Even Elder Jing, who was designing the array formation, rushed over. Seeing that his proud work had been played to such a state, Elder Jing almost wanted to bang his head against the wall. It was too fucking embarrassing. However, Elder Yuan was still ridiculing him. "Old friend, how is it? I told you there was something wrong with your array formation, right? You didn't believe me, but now you do, right? Are you stupid? Why did you have to use such a beautiful tree as the center of the array formation? Elder Jing was so angry that he was twitching. Normally, the testers wouldn't have enough time to deal with the 5 level 40 demonic beasts. How would they have the time to pay attention to the tree in the distance? Besides, there were more than 10,000 people here who hadn't found any flaws. How could this Yun Chujio make such a mess? Elder Jing silently decided in his heart that the original 4th round of the test was cancelled. Wasn't this Yun Chujio willing to play? Then let's play a big game. If the other contestants knew that the suffering they suffered later was completely caused by Yun Chujio, they would probably wish they could strangle some troublemaker to death. Inside the array, Yun Chujio finally found Jinji. Jinji was not much better than Yi Bingyu. She had already died many times. She could not even tell if she was dead or alive. When she opened her eyes again, she actually saw Yun Chujio standing in front of her. She really thought she had seen a ghost. Little Jio? Am I hallucinating? Jinji rubbed her eyes. Beauty Jinji, if you are distracted again, you will die again. Yun Chujio said with a cheeky smile. Only then did Jinji believe that it was really Yun Chujio who came to help. With the help of Yun Chujio and the 5 gold-spotted hurricane leopards, it took an hour to kill the 5 demon beasts in this area. Jinji was teleported out before she could ask anything. Yi Bingyu was so excited when she saw Jinji that she almost burst into tears. It was because she was really embarrassed. Those people looked at her as if she was a monster. In fact, she was also very confused. If she had known that it would be so awkward if she came out so early, she would have asked Yun Chujio to spare a demonic beast for her to kill time. Jinji and Yi Bingyu talked about what happened and then waited anxiously for Xue Wuji and Yun Chujio. Inside the array formation, Xue Wuji continued to ride Baojiu in various areas. Time was running out and some people had already killed 3 demonic beasts. The 5 gold-spotted hurricane leopards even wanted to die. They had agreed to see the colorful world, but why did they have to be either thugs or mounts? It was as if their legs had become thinner. It had to be said that Yun Chujio's luck was not bad. After passing through hundreds of areas, she actually met Xue Wuji. Xue Wuji was in a better condition than Jinji and Yi Bingyu. He had already killed a demonic beast. After all, the mutated wind spirit root was not a joke. Of course, it was inevitable that he would die a few times. Xue Wuji was not too surprised to see Yun Chujio. After all, he had already seen this fellow's abnormal performance countless times. Little sister Jio, quick, come over and help. These damn things are really too difficult to deal with. Xue Wuji said as he attacked with his spiritual power skull. Yun Chujio smiled as she called out to the 4 demonic beasts for a feast of talismans. Then she asked the 5 golden spotted hurricane leopards to help. 15 minutes later, the 4 demonic beasts died unwillingly. A white light flashed and Xue Wuji was also teleported out. They would die sooner or later anyway. Therefore, the 5 golden spotted hurricane leopards slapped each other with their claws, and all of them fell to the ground and died. Although she knew that the 5 golden spotted hurricane leopards would die sooner or later, Yun Chujio still felt a little bitter when she saw them commit suicide. Just when Yun Chujio was feeling sad, a white light flashed in front of her eyes. When she regained her sight, she was already in the square. There were only a few people in the square. When Xue Wuji and the other 2 saw Yun Chujio, they all gathered around her. Yun Chujio adjusted her mood and began to chat and laugh with the 3 of them. As time passed, more and more candidates were teleported to the square. Among them were some who were angered to death by Yun Chujio. All of them glared at Yun Chujio. Some people directly questioned, Yun Chujio, why are you able to move around in different areas? Did you cheat? Yun Chujio looked at him as if he was an idiot. Which eye of yours saw me cheating? Did the rules say that I'm not allowed to move around? I'm willing to move around. What do you care? The person who asked the question was rendered speechless by a certain Jio's rebuke. Indeed, the rules did not forbid them from going to other areas. Thus, everyone could only express their dissatisfaction with angry looks. Of course, There was also some unexplainable jealousy in this dissatisfaction. In another square, a few elders gathered together to discuss whether Yun Chujio and the other three could pass the test. An elder said, not only did Yun Chujio take advantage of the situation, she also took advantage of the loopholes in the rules and disrupted the order of the test. Such a person cannot be admitted. That makes sense. The other three people only managed to kill 5 demonic beasts with Yun Chujio's help. They cannot be considered to have passed. Elder Yuan curled his lips and said, all right. What's the point of saying so much? I'm just asking you, did the little girl break the rules? If she didn't break the rules, why did she cancel her test results? If you want to blame someone, it's because the rules you set aren't perfect. If you had said in advance that you weren't allowed to wander around, wouldn't the little girl have obediently passed the test? Elder Yuan usually had a mischievous personality and had a fiery temper. Although the few elders didn't agree with what he said, they didn't dare to openly go against him. Moreover, he was in charge of the 3rd round of the test. Hence, everyone did not say anything and tacitly agreed with Elder Yuan's opinion. As for Yun Chujio, she was not worried at all. If the Primordial Chaos sect really wanted to cancel their results, she was prepared to make a big fuss. No matter what, she had connections. Master Bailey had eaten her coral fruit. Could it be that he ate it for free? Finally, for hours later, the 5,000 participants were full. The rest of the participants were eliminated. After 3 rounds of testing, everyone was exhausted physically and mentally, and they were not confident about the upcoming test. The Primordial Chaos Sect's test was very abnormal. It was not a fixed number of rounds, but the final goal was to select 500 disciples. Therefore, there was probably still some trouble. Just as everyone was feeling uneasy, the voice that had notified them earlier said, "Congratulations on passing the 3 rounds of testing. Now prepare for the 4th round of testing." Yun Chujio heard the sound of gnashing teeth from the voice. She understood a little. It was probably because she had messed up the 3rd round of the test, so she became angry out of embarrassment. A white light flashed in front of her eyes. When Yun Chujio regained her sight, she realized that there were several mines that were more than 100 feet tall in front of her. Each mountain had a number and a name. Yun Chujio's number and name were marked on the mines in front of her. Yun Chujio touched her chin. What was going on? Were they supposed to mine? Was the Hunyuan sect so stingy that they treated these candidates as laborers? Just as Yun Chujio's thoughts were running wild, she heard the person from before gloating, "Your mission is to finish mining the mine in front of you and pass the test for the top 3,000. In addition, you are not allowed to use talismans. Those who use talismans will be eliminated immediately." But what kind of joke was this? Although the mine was not big, if they were to rely on manual mining, they would not be able to finish it in less than a month. Were they planning to tire them to death? At this time, several pickaxes for mining appeared out of thin air on the ground. The person continued, "Don't think that just mining is enough. There are more surprises waiting for you. I wish you good luck." Yun Chujio pursed her lips. Only a fool would obediently mine. Even if she did not use the talisman, there must be a faster way. There was no rush. She would sleep first. Due to Yun Chujio's abnormal performance in the 3rd round, this time she was the only one sleeping soundly on the number 9 shadow stone. The people of the Primordial Chaos sect. This girl's heart was really big. Didn't she see that everyone else was working hard at mining? This guy was actually sleeping soundly here. Could it be that she had some evil idea? Everyone shook their heads. Other than the talisman, there should be no other way to speed up the mining speed. Yun Chujio must have been tired from jumping just now, which was why she was sleeping. Shui Wuji and the other two's mines were adjacent to Yun Chujio's mines. Seeing that Yun Chujio was sleeping soundly, the 3 of them did not disturb her. Instead, they looked around. After looking around, they came to a shocking fact. The mines of the 4 of them were obviously bigger than the others, especially Yun Chujio's mine. It was more than 1/3 bigger than the others. This was too much of a bully. Yun Chujio woke up and stretched. Shui Wuji and the other 2 told her what they had seen. Yun Chujio immediately jumped up and looked around. It was just as Shui Wuji and the others had said. Yun Chujio's eyes flickered a few times, but she didn't say anything. It was useless to say anything now. It wasn't too late for little Geo to take revenge. She would find the culprit sooner or later to take revenge. The people of the Primordial Chaos sect also noticed this problem. Many people gloated over Yun Chujio's misfortune. Wasn't that Yun Chujio able to jump around? Let's see how she can jump this time. A few elders were also watching. Elder Yuan glared at Elder Jing with dissatisfaction. This is your masterpiece, right? I didn't expect you to be so petty. Elder Jing laughed dryly. This is just a lesson for them. Besides, their stamina is better than others. This is also for the sake of fairness. Elder Yuan pursed his lips. No matter how strong that little girl is, can she withstand the extra third of the mine? If that little girl passes the test, then so be it. But if she is really lacking in the final third of the mine, then I'm not done with you. Elder Jing laughed and didn't say anything. He felt that even without the extra third of the mine, Yun Chujio wouldn't be able to pass the test. After all, the higher the spiritual power, the more efficient the miners would be. Yun Chujio and the other three had much lower spiritual power than the others, so they would definitely be eliminated. Seeing that Yun Chujio didn't say anything, Xue Wuji said, "Little sister Jio, no matter what, let's start digging. What if our mine is easier to dig than the others?" He didn't believe Xue Wuji himself. It would be good if it wasn't harder to dig than the others. You guys dig first. I'll rest for a while. Yun Chujio took out the universal tent and went inside. Xue Wuji and the other two looked at each other and then went to dig the mine. A certain Jio lay in the tent and thought of a solution. It was impossible to dig the mine honestly. Their spiritual power was too low and they could not defeat the others. It would be great if they had help. Yun Chujio could send out 5 puppets to help. However, although these puppets were not very powerful, they had great potential. It was better to not let others know about them. Her spiritual pets were more special and could not be exposed. Where could she find help? She could not hire other candidates, right? They would only give up their own test to earn money unless their brains were damaged. 3 days passed in a row and Yun Chujio still couldn't think of any good ideas. Of course, this lazy person didn't even mine a single piece of ore. Everyone was busy mining the ores when they suddenly felt that the weather was extremely hot. They looked up and almost died from anger. They saw 3 suns in the sky. Were they planning to roast them into jerky? Yun Chujio and the other 3 did not mind. It would be better if they were hotter. It would be good for them to catch up with the progress. Everyone was suffering terribly. They had to mine while they had to endure the heat. They really wanted to die. After the people from the Chaos Origin sect saw this, they had recovered from the shock of Yun Chujio. These rookies should be in such a sorry state. Otherwise, it would appear that they were useless in the past. However, when they saw the situation on the number 9 Shadow Stone, they immediately felt stifled. They saw that the little girl dug a hole in the mine, and some clear water flowed down from it from time to time. Beside it, she even wrote 3 crooked words with cinnabar: Water Curtain Cave. Through the water curtain, they could see that the girl was chewing on the spirit fruit while reading her storybook. She was very carefree. Some people snorted coldly and said, "I think that Yun Chujio knew that no matter how she dug, she would be eliminated, so she just gave up." That makes sense. She has already given up. The other 3 are also much slower than the others, so they will definitely be eliminated. Elder Yuan could not help but feel a little anxious. This little girl seemed to be quite smart, but why was she being silly now? You should just mine, shouldn't you mine less and less? Everyone was exposed to the sun for 6 days, and they all felt like they were about to turn into dried meat. Suddenly the weather became cool. When they looked up, they saw that the 2 extra suns in the sky had disappeared. Everyone could not help but rejoice. Yun Chujio curled her lips. A bunch of idiots. According to the dark nature of the person who wrote the question, what followed was definitely a freezing weather. Yun Chujio put away the water at the top of the cave, then called Xue Wuji and the other 2 into the cave. She also stuffed a few quilts at the entrance of the cave. Xue Wuji and the other 2 were puzzled. "Little Jio, what are you doing? Are you afraid that others will hear us?" Yun Chujio pointed outside. "The weather will definitely change in a while. If you don't want to freeze into dogs, stay here with me. As for mining, we'll think of another way." Xue Wuji and the other 2 were skeptical. They looked outside through the gaps in the quilts. When the rest of the group saw the actions of Yun Chujio and the other 2, they burst into laughter. Were the 4 of them stupid? It was not easy for them to cool down, but they actually hid in the hole and even used the blanket to block the hole. Were they trying to hatch an egg inside? Just as everyone was mocking them, the sky suddenly turned dark. Due to the cotton blanket blocking the entrance of the cave, the members of the Chaos Origin sect could not see what was happening inside the cave. They thought that Yun Chujio and the other three must have been extremely cold inside, and the anger in their hearts finally dissipated a little. However, when Yun Chujio occasionally opened the gap of the cotton blanket to let in some air, everyone saw that the 4 people who were eating hot pot inside suffered another 10,000 points of damage. That Yun Chujio was simply inhuman. Why would she bring so much firewood with her? Could it be that she was a woodcutter in the past? She actually brought hot pot with her. What a good for nothing. Wait, that didn't seem to be a hot pot, damn. It was actually an alchemy furnace. They actually used an alchemy furnace as a hot pot? Didn't they say that alchemists treasured their own alchemy furnace? Why would they waste the alchemy furnace like this? In their anger, everyone felt a little hungry. They also wanted to eat hot pot. A few days later, the snowstorm finally stopped, but the ground was full of water. If they wanted to dig for ore, they could only stand in the water and dig. It was simply unbearable. Of course, Yun Chujio and the other 2 were not included in the bitter situation. Shui Wuji and the other 2 originally wanted to go out and dig for ore, but they were stopped by Yun Chujio's words. You guys better save your strength. Think about it carefully. Even if you dig with all your might, can you dig past the others? Moreover, our mine is bigger than others. Jin Ji sighed. Then what do you think we should do? Don't tell me we should just give up. We've already passed 3 rounds of tests. Don't tell me we should just give up. Of course we won't give up. I definitely want to enter the Primordial Chaos sect. Don't worry, I'll think of a way. If we can't think of a way, I'll go look for Old Man Bai Li. Their Primordial Chaos sect's test is unfair, and he, as the sect leader, is to blame. If he doesn't make an exception to accept us, he'll go look for Old Man Xiaoho at the Primordial Chaos sect. He'll definitely think of a way to convince Old Man Xiaoho to take us in. Therefore you should put your hearts into your stomachs. It doesn't matter if you don't mind this lousy mine. Yun Chujio's eyes were full of craftiness. Shui Wuji and the other 2 reacted for a while before they realized that the Old Man Bai Li and Old Man Xiaoho that Yun Chujio mentioned were the sect masters of the Primordial Chaos sect and the Killing sect. They felt that Yun Chujio's words were somewhat unreliable. How could the sect masters of 2 super sects be fooled by her? However, perhaps they were used to listening to Yun Chujio's arrangements, so the 3 of them did not go out to continue mining. After all, standing in the water to mine was simply inhuman torture. Although the people outside could store the flood into their storage rings, they did not trust each other. They were afraid that they would be at a disadvantage. After all, the water was flowing and there was no way to only collect the water in their own area. Therefore, no one took any action to collect the water and let the water recede slowly. After a few days, the water finally receded. Before the people could catch their breath, they heard someone exclaim, "Giant ore-devouring ant. It's a giant ore-devouring ant." A certain Jiao, who was sitting on the recliner, opened her eyes lazily. She saw a black mass of ants rapidly approaching the mine in the distance. She stood up and saw that it was indeed a giant ore-devouring ant. This type of giant ore-devouring ant was about a foot long and lived in groups of demonic insects. There was a queen ant in every colony, and its composition was similar to that of a spirit bee. Although the giant ore-devouring ant also ate other things, its favorite food was spirit ores. Although the level of spirit energy of this type of giant ore-devouring ant was not very high, it could not withstand the large number. Moreover, they could also spray out a kind of formic acid. When a person touched it, they would feel extremely itchy and even fester. Therefore, cultivators would rather encounter some high-level demon beasts than these swarms of demon insects. When everyone saw a large group of giant ore-devouring ants coming over, they hurriedly stopped mining and began to face the enemy. The reason why everyone was so nervous was because they were afraid that if the giant ore-devouring ants ate all the ores, they would not be able to pass the test. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and lazily sat back on the recliner. Anyway, those idiots would stop her. So she continued to bask in the sun. Jinji asked in a low voice. Little Gio, aren't we going to help? There are so many people. There's no need for the four of us. Let's just watch the show. What if they chase the ant colony to our place? Jinji frowned worriedly. If they really do that, that's not bad. Let's wait and see. There's no rush. At worst, we'll just let them gnaw on the mine. Chujio said indifferently. Jinji and the other two could not figure out what Chujio was thinking, so they could only stretch their necks to watch the battle ahead. Although the ant colony was not small, there were about 5,000 participants, so the ant colony did not gain any advantage. After a portion of them were killed or injured, they fled in a panic. Only then did everyone heave a sigh of relief and continue to dig the mine. Unexpectedly, after only 2 hours, the ant colony returned. Moreover, the number of ants had returned to its previous size, and they were quickly crawling towards the mine. Everyone had no choice but to meet the ant colony again. Then the ant colony retreated again. After 2 hours, the ant colony attacked again. Everyone was very annoyed by the ant colony. They had clearly killed many of them, but when the ant colony reappeared, it actually returned to its original size. Not to mention that this endless killing had delayed the mining. They didn't even have time to rest. It was really too terrible. While everyone was frustrated, they saw Chujio and the other 3 people in the corner who were leisurely enjoying themselves. They were here desperately resisting the giant or devouring ants, but those 4 people actually didn't come over to help. It was really detestable. Therefore, everyone had a tacit understanding and began to drive the ant colony toward Chujio and the other 3. It was also good to let these giant or devouring ants eat up Chujio and the other 3's minds first. This way they could buy a lot of time for them. After Jinji discovered the intentions of those people, she was both anxious and angry. Little Gio, if they really drove the ant colony to our place, what should we do? Chujio stood up and curled the corners of her lips. Then she stretched her neck and shouted, "Hurry up and get rid of the ant colony. Otherwise I won't hold back." When the other contestants heard Chujio's shout, they all laughed and fell back. Was there something wrong with this Chujio's head? They were the ones who rushed to her place on purpose. How could they take away the ant colony? Besides, who did she think she was? And she even ordered them? She really didn't know her own limits. Chujio raised her voice again. "I'll give you another chance. Hurry up and get rid of the ant colony. Otherwise you'll regret it." Everyone laughed even harder. This Chujio was most likely not very smart. Would they regret it? In their dreams. Chujio laughed very happily. If they were not kind, then don't blame her for being unrighteous. Chujio whispered a few words to Shui Wuji and the other 2, and then jumped in the direction of the ant colony. When everyone saw this, they could not help but cry out. Was this Chujio crazy? Could it be that she wanted to defeat the entire ant colony by herself? Although they had already eliminated a small portion of the ant colony, there were still thousands of them left. Everyone was surprised to find that Chujio had directly charged into the ant colony, and those giant or devouring ants kept shooting ant acids at her. However, Chujio's body not only had a spiritual energy barrier, but also several layers of defensive barrier. Although the defensive barrier kept breaking, that guy seemed to have countless defensive spiritual artifacts on him, and he had actually charged to the center of the ant colony unharmed. She grabbed the ant queen's 2 antennae and slammed them hard on the ground. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.